everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Great to have everybody here with us. We're back from was I on last week? I was not on last week. It's been a busy week, a busy couple weeks. I know we got our Stream of Conscious or our Ari Sirius in last week, but we did not get on the big football show with Mac, Jack, and Sonia and Jim last week because I was at a wedding in Rhode Island, and then this week I was traveling for work. I will point out. To Vegas, and I did not get a chance to do the college football basketball huddle, which will return Wednesday night, or last week's Stream of Consciousness. But we're back and hopefully better than ever. I want to welcome everybody watching today on TGI Sports Talk. Obviously, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're on Northeast Streaming Sports, Facebook, YouTube, and we're live on the Roku channel. If you can watch us on the big screen, can't comment there. Got to follow us on Facebook or YouTube to do that. Maybe Twitter, too. I haven't seen comments come through from Twitter. If somebody does comment from Twitter, please point it out to me in your comment so I know if comments are coming from there. And also, of course, Let's Talk Sports. We're on their YouTube channel this morning live. Great content on all of those, both LTS and Northeast Streaming Sports. Great content all day long and all night long. So check that stuff out. And a quick shout out, thumbs up, obviously, DDS. Quick shout out to you, as I like to do, and a quick shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media, specifically the Sports Corner that he does with Smoke and Jim Frazier every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on WBVP, 12:30 a.m. 99.3 FM. Well, Jim Beringer joined us at some point today from FullPressHockey.com and Let's Talk Sports. Great content from Jim. We'll let him, I've really enjoyed the last few Sundays, actually probably a month of Sundays, where you guys have really taken over the show, which is really what I want this show to be. And basically a stream of consciousness. We've gone everywhere. We won't categorize, if we get on a topic, we should stay on it a little bit. But if you've got something you want to throw in, and we're talking football, you want to throw baseball in there, throw it in. Some of the things I'd like to get to today, obviously the playoffs in the NFL. Cowboys show up small again, but McCarthy keeps his job. And I don't know that it's the wrong move, by the way. How many coaches win 12 games 3 years in a row? I know he hasn't had playoff success, but if your team hasn't won 36 games in the last 2 years and won a playoff game, maybe you shouldn't really be getting on the Cowboys. I'm not necessarily a big fan of this move, but I can understand why he makes it. The Eagles' problems, man, there's things imploding there. There's some serious problems in that organization and in that locker room. Kansas City's not dead yet. I want to get to a little bit of Nick Saban, replaced by Kalen DeBoer. Hall of Fame voting. Voting's done, I should say. The announcement will be tomorrow. I'll give you my selections. I know we'll have some debate there. We want to get into it. We got some moves with Harder going to the Astros, or Hader going to the Astros, and Stroman to the Yankees. Mets, Dwight Gooden, Strawberry News. In the NBA, we got the passing of Dejan Milojevic. Very tragic passing, well regarded in NBA circles. And the booing, by the way. And these are just some topics. You guys, we're going to go wherever you guys want to go. We'll be interrupted when Jim Beringer comes on, and we'll let him do the same thing. We'll let him give us a hockey talk, and he can bring up anything he wants in the world of sports. But I do want to touch on the NBA last week. The Bulls honored their 90s dynasty, Jordan and Jackson and that crew. And Jerry Krause, who, Chicago fans hate that he broke that team up, but he led them to 6 world championships, or built teams that won 6 world championships. And his widow is booed unmercifully during the ceremony. And I think it's one of the most classless things I've ever seen in sports. Those people should be ashamed of themselves. That poor 80-year-old woman was on the floor in tears. And I think it's disgusting. And this is what sports is deteriorating into, guys. Just like real life. All of our lives are deteriorating into this kind of BS. You can boo. You want to boo an 80-year-old woman whose husband's dead with her grandchildren sitting on either side of her? Then you are a sick SOB, let me tell you. anyway, there's some of the things I'd like to get into today, but we're going to let you guys carry it, and we'll talk about that and anything else you want to talk about, and we'll just let her rip like we have the last few weeks. I've loved it. I go off on the SOBs and whatnot, and I get a blessed Sunday from XCA. Welcome, SCA. Good to have you with us. And he also gives the DDH. Welcome. Good to be back, Rick. It was an exhausting week. Not a lot of fun to be had, as these trade shows are not a lot of fun. They're fun. I shouldn't say that. It's really good to get out and mingle in that type of atmosphere, and played a little poker on Thursday night and went to a hockey game. I think it was Monday. I can't remember. Monday or Tuesday, we went to see Vegas play the Kraken. I'm not. Who's having? This is the second time Rick has told me this in 2 weeks. So somebody else, please tell me what the audio issue is. If you're not hearing anything, please tell me. And if you are hearing a problem, please let me know. Good morning to JB. How are you this morning? Remember to check out his podcast at Back It Up Binge. Bing. No sound. Is anybody hearing me? I had no problem a second ago on the Mac and Jack show. So somebody please let me know whether we have sound or not. I was having no problem a second ago, so I don't know why I'd be having problems now. And I do not see myself muted or anything. So somebody please let me know they're hearing me, please. Morning, let's go Giants. Rado, good to have you with us this morning. Rado out there in Fonda. Well, not Fonda, Tribes Hill. I know those kids are going to Fonda. Good to have you with us. And don't say go Giants. They're not playing today. They're home with my Patriots watching on TV. Good to have you with us, though. You will need to start your opening over. What happened? So now I have sound and I didn't in the beginning. Is that what you're saying? Well, the opening was basically, DDH thumbs up. We'll have Jim Beringer on here a little bit from LTS and FullPressHockey.com. And we'll be talking the things I wanted to talk about. NFL, Cowboys collapse, Eagles collapse, McCarthy staying. Anything else you want to talk about in the NBA? Saban and Kalen DeBoer and guys leaving Alabama. Hall of Fame announcement tomorrow. I'll give you my picks and why I don't like a few guys. I don't think I brought up a page look. I'll have to bring that up. Some moves, player moves, and of course, I talked about the disgusting events in Chicago last week where Jerry Krause's 80-year-old widow is just barraged with booze. He built a 6-time world champion, guys. You people in Chicago are the most disgusting human beings I've ever seen. And if you didn't boo, then please accept my apology for including you. You're the most disgusting human beings I've ever seen in my life to boo an 80-year-old widow and her grandchildren. And this is what sports is devolving into, and life in general. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, some of the things I talked about. How about you guys? Yes, it was Dan Harris's birthday this week, so we wish him a very heavenly birthday. If you guys, most of you remember Dan Harris, who built LTS up, and I did a lot of shows with Dan, or Let's Talk New York Sports, and I love doing it. And we miss our friend a lot. So happy birthday this week. Thanks for bringing that up, Alex. I almost forgot that. Good to have you with us as well. Alec, you ought to be feeling great after a 4 a.m. finish from last night's 49ers game. There's no way you could go to bed early, that's for sure, because they didn't pull that game out. There was about a minute and a half left. I thought a good performance by the 49ers, by the way, once they got their feet on the ground. Green Bay didn't put them away early where they did the Cowboys last week. They had their opportunities in the first half and didn't score touchdowns. You have to score touchdowns to win in this league, especially in the playoffs. They forced Jordan Love's going to be great. If you're a Green Bay fan, don't be discouraged. This is a really good, youngest football team in the playoffs. This team has got a great future ahead of them, and they're a young team. They got beat by a better team. The 49ers stepped up when they needed to, made some stops on defense, forced Love into some mistakes, and they end up with a win. The other game was a bit again, Houston played as well as they could. They're young. They couldn't get separation. They might be playing the best team in the NFL, guys. Baltimore, and I have not been a huge Baltimore fan because they haven't been able to get over the top and win multiple playoff games under or with Lamar Jackson under center. But they looked really good yesterday. And this team is, by the way, was winning every game this year in the fourth quarter. They could have won every game they played this year. Now you can look at it a couple of ways, but they're blowing teams out right now. That game was close for a while because Houston figured out a way for a couple of quarters, quarter and a half, whatever, with Harris spying Jackson and kept them in check for a bit. But this team, except for the punt return, there was no, and that's not offense, that's special teams. It's a great punt return, by the way. But it's not, I wouldn't be discouraged. Don't panic if you're a Houston fan. Great job with a rookie quarterback, a rookie head coach, a lot of young guys. They'll get better. That was kind of interesting. I saw some, and I didn't see that because I switched over. I don't care about post game stuff, so I didn't really watch it. I switched over to Fox at that point, but I was seeing some comments. So I don't know whether I'm guessing I'd read that they edited out his mention of his faith and thanking God and whatever. Again, that whatever your thoughts are on religions, and mine are, very strong. I'm not a big organized religion guy, but I'm also not about editing out content. Now they'll say it was for time, whatever. I don't know whether they bleeped it out live or whether they edited it, because the comments I said they edited it out. So I'm going to assume the interview happened and then they cut it out. They'll say it was for time again. Now, I don't know whether to take them at their word or not, but let's not. They shouldn't be doing that. I would hope God's got more to worry about than a football game anyway, but that's just me. But again, I don't like the practice, right? Regardless of what your views are. Whatever. It's a touchy subject. Chad's got sound. That's good. I don't know what happened at the top, guys. I apologize if you didn't hear the opening. I apologize, but I do thank you, Rick, for pointing that out. And we do have clarity that we do have sound, and hopefully it's good. Thank you, Chad. And welcome to the show this morning. Rado hears us. Hope you guys are having fun. I saw your kids working out yesterday, Rado. Get them working out early. You're going to have a couple of great athletes there. So keep that up, man. Don't give them that evil soccer ball either. Please keep that soccer ball away from them. Sorry, Alec. Oh, and the rest of my UK friends and Australian friends and I don't know, whoever else. And I know we have people watching us all over the globe. We have a lot of fans in the UK. I don't mean to offend anybody, but keep that round ball away from them. All good on Alex, and then that's good. No worries, Rick. Listen, I appreciate you pointing out if you think there's an issue so we can address it. One thing I did point out at the top is I've loved the way the last few weeks have gone, about a month really, as I've really let this go to a real stream of consciousness, right? I'm not sticking to a script and we're doing football, baseball, blah, blah, blah. We'll be interrupted this morning when Jim Beringer joins us to talk a little NHL and his thoughts about the world of sports in general. But I want you guys to do the same. And I've loved jumping all over the map. And that's really what I intended the show to do. And sometimes I probably was over scripting. So you want to talk about the NFL? We'll do that. If we jump to baseball and back to the NFL, well, that's great. We can talk NBA. Rado heard me. Main bit. I got to tell you, and let me just read Rado's comment here. Man, those Bulls teams, and Rado was a big Bulls fan. I know a big Michael Jordan fan, obviously. Man, those Bulls teams, and more importantly, Jordan years were so much fun to watch. I can't believe NJ's 60 now. I can't believe I'm going to be 64, so I understand. But I have to tell you, and again, I know that you're not necessarily a Bulls fan now that your boy's been gone there for 30, I don't know, 25 years, whatever it is. Math is not my forte. I went to Perth. But I got to tell you, what I saw last week was the most classless thing I've seen ever. Again, I shouldn't say most. One of the most classless things I've seen ever in the world of sports and anywhere. This is such a microcosm of society today. We think we can do whatever we want. I paid to get in here, and I'll boo the 80-year-old widow of a guy I didn't like. A guy who built 6 championship teams, by the way. I know it's easier to win with Michael Jordan, but guess what? If you just had Michael Jordan and not a bunch of great complementary pieces, they don't win 6 titles. Jerry Krause did a great job. He broke up the team, and they boo him. They boo his 80-year-old widow because of that. You people are the scum of the earth in Chicago. And again, I apologize to any of you who will hear this that didn't boo. But there weren't enough of you who were not booing. God, I'm going to rail on this for a while. I'm telling you. The vlogs nearly came out. If I had time this week, I would have done a vlog, and I've calmed down a little bit. And I don't have a dog in this hunt. I don't give 2 craps about the Chicago or Chicago's 6 titles. Great achievement. But for you to do that to an 80-year-old woman and her grandchildren? And a lot of the Bulls players have come to her defense, and Jerry Krause's defense for that matter. So disgusting. John Gonzalez from the Sports Authorities. Guys, one of the great groups out there, the Sports Authorities. John lets me share all this stuff. John, I apologize if some of the shows aren't getting there. Facebook has been very, very difficult. I don't share live there, obviously, so I share it after the fact. But Facebook has been very, very discriminatory in where I can share. I mean, every group I share to has given me the okay to do that. And they let me share to about, 4 groups a day or something, and it's ridiculous. So I apologize to all those groups who are not getting the content that they've come to love, especially this show. This show and the college football show, the college sports show, are driving thousands of views a week. Packers gave the game away last night. They outplayed the Niners all. I won't argue that point, John. Packers played great, but they showed they're a young football team for the most part with a very young quarterback. He's not a rookie, but he might as well be. He hasn't played until this year. And take nothing away from Jordan Love. Had a great second half of the season, really played well, had a great season overall, as it turns out. The team was really good in the second half. 49ers are a better team, and those are types of games that good teams find a way to win. They didn't play their best, a little rusty maybe. I worry sometimes about Brock Purdy. I mean, his numbers are great. But again, they found a way to win this football game, and that's what really matters. And good teams find a way to win these games. So I agree. But at the end of the day, the final score is what matters. Hoping not the Raiders. You know why I don't want the Ravens? I'll watch it. And I'm not sure what your vitriol there is, John. You can feel free to share it. You know why I don't want it? Is because of this whole stupid conspiracy theory that's something to do with the colors of the official program or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it is. Will show the team's colors of the teams the NFL has picked. And there was also a promo for the entertainment, national anthem, God Bless America, the halftime show, and it said during the Super Bowl featuring the Ravens and the 49ers. I don't know if that made the air or whatever, but I did see it posted yesterday. Facebook is what it is. Social media is what it is. So whether it's accurate or not. And besides, Aaron Rodgers believes this theory. If he believes that theory, why is he playing? I mean, come on. Again, you guys know how I feel about this scripted BS. And Aaron Rodgers promotes it, but then goes out there and are we supposed to believe he's not trying to win a championship when he plays? I wish he'd go away. Dallas needs a coach like Vrabel. Mike McCarthy gets a lot of heat, and maybe rightly so. The team wasn't ready to play last week. But they did win 12 games. They have won 12 games in the last each of the last 3 years. Not a lot of teams in the NFL have done that. He's reached the playoffs every year. He hasn't won, so it's not like he's a buffoon as he's portrayed. I thought a move might get made. I thought Belichick could go there. I thought Pete Carroll would be a great choice in Dallas. Vrabel's another guy I think would be a good choice. I still think the problem's there. I know some will say it's the quarterback, and maybe it is the quarterback. Dak, again, in a big game, comes up really small. His numbers look great because of garbage time, but again, Dallas and Philadelphia, I don't know I can't put my finger on what's wrong. But I'm not putting this all on Mike McCarthy. They haven't won in 30 years. Mike McCarthy's only been there for 3 or 4. So, and by the way, they might as well have fired him. You cannot have a coach with no contract. Lame duck coaches don't normally work out well. And that's a bad situation, I think, there. Random, but good morning. Oh, Anthony. Thought that was Alec for a second. Got your Washington hat on. Redskin hat. I like that. Good morning, sir. Good win for the Ravens, but their offense is not scary. Well, I'll tell you what, Zay Flowers has turned into a really good player in the second half of this season. They didn't have great success throwing the ball yesterday, except on some big plays when they need to. Lively has really become a really reliable target for Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson's better at throwing the football since Todd Monken got there as the offensive coordinator, former Georgia Bulldog coordinator, as Rick well knows. I need to see them win. I need to see them get to a Super Bowl to really believe in this team. It's believe that they're over this hump. They've won playoff games before, not multiple playoff games. I think they've got one win, actually, if I'm not mistaken, with the Jackson Harbaugh combination. And their defense is really, really good. Jackson's really, really good. And I think this offense has got more weapons. They're having a hard time running the football. That is a problem, right? And it may be a big problem against whoever they play. And I do think they're playing the Chiefs. The Chiefs in Buffalo today, I'll throw this out there now and go back to the comments. I like the Chiefs a lot today. I like the Lions as well in the other game. I won't spend nearly as much time probably there. I think the Lions at home are going to have too much, and the Lions are going to get a chance to play on the road for the championship of the NFC. The Lions getting I think this is just the second time in their history, if I'm not mistaken, they hosted 2 playoff games in the same season, or maybe it's the first time. But I like the Lions a lot today, and I think we'll get a Lions-49ers matchup in Buffalo. I like what Buffalo's done the last 6-7 weeks. But I still see some big mistakes by Josh Allen, who, by the way, his numbers, for people like to bash, Josh Allen. I was looking at his numbers of first 7 years of their careers, and he matches up very favorably with the GOAT, except in Super Bowl wins, which is the big number. But I'm not counting Kansas City out. I watched them play a really good football game. Kelsey much more involved last week. This team is not dead. They're the defending champions, and until they lose, Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in football. I don't know how you can dispute that. His numbers weren't as good as previously because his weapons aren't as good as previously. Their defense is much better, and I still think this team will win today. And by the way, I don't know how reliable the sources are, but Bleacher Report reported it yesterday or maybe Friday that there's some rumors around the Kansas City organization that Andy Reid could possibly step away after this season. We'll see what happens there. 49ers did look rusty, Rick. Many didn't play in week 18 and they had a bye week. Same thing with the Ravens, though. I mean, again, and I think that bye week, it's helpful to get guys healthy, but it's I don't know. I heard that I think it was 18 or 19 days. Maybe it's 21 days before the Ravens hadn't played. And the 49ers, I think, look more rusty than the Ravens yesterday, obviously. But I do think they were definitely they were outplayed. As John Gonzalez said, they were outplayed most of the game by the Packers, young Packer team. But there's no doubt in my mind the 49ers are a better football team. And they found a way to win. And, they got it together in time, just in time to do that. Scaring nobody. OBJ is a new Ben Simmons, just there for the money. Anthony, that's not a bad point. He did have, I don't know what he had yesterday. Oh, Jesus, sorry. What did he have yesterday? Let me look at the box score. Great stuff this morning, guys. Keep it coming. OBJ had one catch for 12 yards, the one I saw. Zay Flowers is great. Again, part of the reason is they haven't needed him because Bateman stepped up, Flowers has stepped up. That's thinking Nelson Aguilar catches a touchdown yesterday. Another guy who did nothing for the Patriots. But probably a fair comparison. Simmons wouldn't even get on the floor, though. There's a little bit of difference there, Anthony, but I understand the comparison. Alec talks about how much of the booing just comes because they watch the Netflix. I think a lot of it. I think it's possible a lot of it. That, if you didn't watch The Last Dance, it was very well done, I thought. Obviously, MJ had a lot of say in editorial content. He says he didn't. I think it's very obvious he did because Scottie Pippen doesn't look great in it. And Jerry Krause looks very bad in it. But that should, you should be smart enough as a fan to be able to say the guy built a team that won 6 championships in an 8-year period. I understand he didn't win without MJ, and I understand he broke up that championship team, but you wouldn't have had a championship team without Jerry Krause. Most likely. It just, again, you can boo. I mean, just what I saw was just revolting. And but you're right. I'm sure that fueled some of it because, again, it wasn't very favorable to Jerry Krause. John, Texans gave a game. Who's John? Texans gave the game away with too many. The penalties were awful in that game. By the way, we've talked a lot this year about bad football being played. This game was not a really well played game defensively by the Ravens, even by the. I know the score got out of hand at the end. I thought the defense for the Texans did a good job, especially after the Ravens. The first couple of possessions, they moved the ball well, and they moved Harris to spy on him. And until Harris got banged up, and it wasn't really after he got hurt, he came back and played, but he wasn't playing as well as he did before that. When he was spying Jackson, I thought they did a good job of stifling that offense. But the Houston defense wore down. They were on the field way too much, too many 3-and-outs by the Texans. Not a really well-played game. I thought the Packers and 49ers was a more interesting game overall because Green Bay got out well. Green Bay should have put them away early, and that would have definitely been a big difference. Chad says, I'm not a fan of fans booing. Titans fans booed Malik Willis after Tannehill went down. Then they said it was directed to coaching. Go figure. You see, here's the thing. I mean, I get it. You pay money. You want your team to win. I don't boo my team. I will come on here and be negative about my team sometimes when it's warranted. But booing people after they get injured, that sucks. Booing an 80-year-old woman, a widow whose husband, not even her, she's got a grandchildren on either side of her. Booing is okay in certain instances. You want to boo somebody because they're playing badly? That's fine. And it's an athlete who's getting paid, $30 million. Fine. Not when he gets hurt. If he's playing badly, boo him. But don't do this. Right? And again, just because you have a ticket doesn't give you the right to do anything you want to do. And Purdy doesn't play well in the rain. Well, that's obvious. I mean, you notice he started with a glove. and he took it off. I don't think he ever put it back on, even when it started raining hard again. If you don't play with a glove all the time, I don't know how you can really expect to, practice 30 minutes in the week with a glove on and think you'll be able to go out there and be as effective as you are the way you always throw the ball, wet or not. So some guys do it, and some guys don't do it well. So anyway, what we got here? Hold on. Thought we had a text. Again, we'll be joined by Jim Beringer at some point, I think, this morning to chat some NHL and some of these same topics. Probably, I'm going to give Jim the platform, and we'll discuss whatever he wants. Niners got outplayed for 50 minutes. Agreed. And this is coming from Alec, a 49er fan. Love needs to know to throw the ball, and live for another down. You see a lot of that. C.J. Stroud, as badly as that offense played yesterday, I thought C.J. Stroud played with some great poise. He didn't really turn the ball over. Did he throw any interceptions? I don't think he did. No, he didn't. He didn't have a great game by any stretch of imagination, but I don't think he was overwhelmed by the situation. The Baltimore defense was so good. There was no separation a lot of times. He missed a receiver here and there, but he was being harassed most of the game. And I think Love, any young quarterback, the thing that's hardest to learn is when to kind of throw it away, as you say, Alec, and live to fight another day for sure. The Cowboys like to play Dak, likely to pay Dak big money soon from losing in the playoffs again. I think, but Dak just signed a contract, didn't he? What's Dak's contract situation? I think he's already got one. I've heard this comment a couple of times. Let's see. See what we got here. You got to spell right, Keith, before you can do anything. He signed a 4-year. That can't be right. Dak's contract guarantees he'll be with the Cowboys for multiple more years. So he's already signed an extension and he's one of the highest paid players in football. And how are you going to trade him? A trade would trigger a $61 million cap charge. Who's trading for that? Nobody. And if you release him, the cap is going to be, you can't release him. So he's not getting a new contract, but comments weren't showing up before. I can see them now. I think you meant weren't, Drew. Sorry about that. I think you got to blame Facebook, though. I am curious, Drew, which feed are you watching it through? I know you're on Facebook, but you could be watching on TGI Sports Talk. You could be watching on my personal page. You could be watching on Northeast Streaming Sports. So I'm curious which one. I'd like to know, and then I'll reach out to Facebook, and they'll never answer me because that's what they do. I've been trying to get an answer on this whole being able to share the show thing, which I'm really pissed about, by the way. I'm about to go on a very negative Facebook rant again, and I'm probably going to get blocked. If you remember 2 years, I don't know if it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, probably 2. For 3 weeks, they just took my page down, my TGI Sports Talk page, without any explanation, without anything. They never once responded to me about why they did it or what I needed to do to get back on. Ridiculous. I know people go in Facebook jail. Maybe I offended somebody. I don't really care. I don't give a crap if I offend Facebook now and they take me off this platform. I'll figure out a way to use the others that I've just been aggressive with, if you will, or passively using, not aggressively using like I have Facebook. I'll use somebody else's platform. I'm tired of the frickin' Nazis running this frickin' Facebook. That ought to get me banned right there. Rado, Cowboys have been the curse. Of course you love it, Rado. You got to love. If you're a Giant fan and you're looking to make a rebound next year, you got to love the dysfunction going on in especially in Philadelphia and even in in Dallas. But again, they've won 12 games each of the last 3 years. It's not like this is a bad football team. I've always said they need a real general manager, but the problem isn't the players they pick. They've done a pretty good job of picking players. Those players don't step up in the big moments. I thought Dak might be past that. I watched him in that Miami game lead them down the field to the go-ahead touchdown. They lost. Not his fault, but not really well done. John's rooting for Detroit to go all the way, but I think the NFL wants San Francisco and Baltimore. Well, again, the rumors, if you'd like to believe those types of things, which I don't, John, because for years I heard how the games were fixed for the Patriots to be able to get to the Super Bowl every year. Are you freaking kidding me? Last thing Roger Goodell wanted in some of those years was to go up on that podium and hand a trophy to Robert Kraft or Tom Brady. But again, the conspiracy theorists believe because of the program, Aaron Rodgers says, what with Aaron Rodgers, if you think that the games are scripted, and now I know John's not saying that. He said the NFL wants San Francisco versus Baltimore. You may be right. The NFL probably would root for certain things, and the networks root for certain things. That's far from saying they're fixing games and scripting games. But Aaron Rodgers and others will tell you that if you look at the programs, that the team's colors are always there. I haven't done research to go back and look at all of these programs, but we'll see. Trying to keep up with the comments here, just so when Jim jumps on, we can get to Jim. What does Jerry Jones do? What does Jerry Jones do? The Cowboys got 3-3 to start the season. If I'm Mike McCarthy, I'm getting out now. Yeah, I don't understand that first part, but the Mike McCarthy part, I mean, without another job, are you getting out? I mean, again, these guys are probably, so you can hire me for 1 year and fire me. I don't care. My contract's going to be guaranteed. I'm sure Mike McCarthy doesn't need to work, but he wants to work. And if you want to work, you don't quit a job without a job. And Mike McCarthy's done a pretty good job there. I'm sure Mike McCarthy will get another job. He was a winner in Green Bay. He won a Super Bowl. Went to another. I don't think he's a horrible coach. I think just problems in that organization. I got the Chiefs and Lions myself today, Johnny. You know, the Chiefs, until they're beat. A lot of people, last year, the same thing. The Chiefs are becoming the new Patriots, right? People are starting to love to hate the Chiefs, and they want to write them off. Every time there's some struggles, and they had some struggles this year, real struggles. But when crunch time comes, guess who's there? And until the Bills beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, which, to my knowledge, has not happened yet, I'll take the Chiefs. There's the Mad New Yorker with us, Carlos Chavez. He likes the Rangers running the ball in the third and fourth quarter. Well, when you're up by 20, you should be running the football. That's a no-brainer. Not every team can do it, though. What was the Justice Hill ran the ball really well yesterday. Gus Edwards, actually, they ran the ball very well. They ran for 229 yards yesterday. Only 100 of that was Lamar, so not bad. Both games today will be close. I do believe that. I'm not sure what to expect in Buffalo. I don't think we're going to get the shootouts that we've gotten in the past. Both of these offenses are a little more, I don't want to say pedestrian, but a little more restrained than they've been in the past. So I think it'll be a low-scoring game as well. I think there's a possibility of some points being scored in that Detroit Buccaneer game. But I do like both Lions and the Chiefs today. Lamar running forward, getting positive yards, was smart to use what the defense gives you. Again, and the Texans got away from this, I think, because Harris got hurt. For a quarter and a half, they shut Lamar down. He could not run the football. They didn't give him wide open spaces in the middle. They got him for negative yardage 3-4 times when Harris was spying him and just blanketing him all over the field. But he got hurt, and he was not the same player after that, or they got away from it. Jackson's a great weapon. There's no doubt about it. Great fourth down call. I don't know, third quarter. Maybe it was early in the fourth quarter. I don't remember. Near midfield, where they just, again, it was and a lot of his plays are design plays, but a lot of them aren't. Those couple of runs that he had early in the game, right up the gut, where I do not believe were designed quarterback runs. The play was just there. And, yeah, I've seen one comment from Drew. I don't see any others coming up. So I hope Drew's not having a problem with whatever's going on with him. Pags hinted yesterday that there was a big issue with the Eagles. It's funny. He didn't hint on it before they played, right? He said they didn't care about losing to the Giants. God, I didn't see him this morning. But when I do see him, I'm going to point this out. And again, I respect Pags and his fandom, right? I'm the same way. But I may not be quite, I think I'm a little bit more objective when it comes to my team. And again, maybe I'm just patting myself on the back. I'm more objective with my team than most fans are. Pags was dead set that it didn't matter that they lost that Giant game, that they didn't care about winning that Giant game. If they didn't, it's quite an indictment on them. And maybe they didn't care, as it looked like in the playoffs. Maybe they just didn't care. The body language on his team Monday night was horrendous from the outset. They had no business losing to that Bucs team, but they did. And we tried to tell them this, I bet the Eagles, quite frankly, like an idiot, but they lost 6 of the last 7. There are big issues there. He didn't want to spread a rumor. Spread the rumor. I mean, it's very obvious. I don't have to be very close to the Eagles situation to see that there's some big issues there. There's been a lot of talk that the head coach wasn't ready. Now, and he had, he stumbled his way into the Super Bowl last year. A lot of people said he wasn't ready after his introductory press conference. But there's issues there. And congratulations to Pegs for being, standing behind his team. But he was so adamant that they couldn't possibly go to Tampa Bay and lose. There was every chance they could have lost that game. I'd like them to win it. But we said that before. Harbaugh is an excellent head coach. I don't know what, except for his whining and crying about the Patriots over the years, which I grew tired of. Whiner. Both Harbaughs are really good coaches. And Jim's a polarizing figure, as we talked about. We've talked about him too. He's going to. It's funny. By the way, and I know a lot of our thought was that he used the Vikings to get a better deal last year, that he was never offered the job. He wasn't offered the job, but he wanted a job. He didn't just use the Vikings. And Adam Schefter and a couple other guys reported this past week, that when he was interviewing for that job, or I don't even know if he got an interview, I don't remember. He wanted the job, but was not offered the job. And now, wherever he goes isn't for more money. He's sitting on a contract extension with Michigan right now that he hasn't signed. And I still think Harbaugh ends up in the NFL, either with the Chargers or with the Falcons. And by the way, Bill Belichick and the Falcons, I wish this interview process could go on forever, because the 28-3 jokes are back, and I love them. I love them. That's one I saw this week. So Mr. Blank, how would you rate the second interview with Bill Belichick on a scale from 28-3? I thought it was hilarious. Packers team okay, but youth and team and not enough good effort. Come on, Carlos. I mean, the first comment is fine, and then you wreck it with something that is ridiculous. You didn't see effort out of this team last night? They were the best team on the field for 50 minutes. Oh, my God, you're killing me. Chris joins us. I think Chris might be a first time with us. Can't say her last name. I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to say, if I say, I can't say it, Chris. I'll just say Chris. You can tell me how to pronounce it if you like, because I do like to say it right. Is there any current player out there that's relatable to Gary Payton? That's a great question. The game changed so much since Gary Payton played. And I'm trying to think of a guy off the top of my head. You know, maybe a guy like Damian Lillard comes to mind. The game just changed so much, Chris. I like the question. And Gary Payton was a great player. I think that's what you're talking about. I hope we're talking about the same guy. Maybe a Damian Lillard. I'm not sure if he's quite the defensive player that Payton was. But he's one guy that pops into my head for sure. Chris, I appreciate you joining the show today, and I hope you'll like and follow TGI Sports Talk because we love to bring in new players. Brunson, maybe. But he can't play defensively. That's the thing. Because when I think about Payton, I think about defense first, right? And there's not a lot of defense first guards out there. And if they are, they don't have the offensive capabilities that Gary Payton had. So something to consider. But that's a good one, Carlos. I think I said John. I don't know why. Packers play well and showed they belong and will be a team to be reckoned with. I agree. Kenny's a Packer fan. I really have thought all along Jordan Love just needed some time. He got off to a rough start this year. And, you know, you got to remember, he's basically a rookie quarterback. I don't care that he's been on the roster for 2 years or whatever it was. I don't care. Until you play, you're basically a rookie quarterback. And he grew as the season went along. He made a couple of big mistakes last night, late in the game. He played really well last week against Dallas. He played really well for most of this game. Fourth quarter, he had a couple of big, maybe third and fourth quarter, he had turnovers. Maybe they're both in the fourth quarter. I mean, his last interception is desperation time. I get it. But I think this Packer team, I mean, the oldest guy in the team as far as the skill position players is Aaron Jones. And we all know you can go find running backs almost anywhere. But Aaron Jones was really good last night, by the way. And I'm not sure what his contract situation is. But I really like some of the pieces they have on this team, and they're only going to get better. And by the way, this is how LaFleur wanted to coach. This is the offense he wanted to coach and wasn't able to because he was saddled with Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. Now, doesn't mean those 3 years were wasted, except for the last year. They had really good years. But this is how LaFleur wanted his offense to look. And by the way, Shanahan tree is doing pretty good, isn't it, Carlos? We hate everybody named LaFleur. We hate everybody named Shanahan. We hate anybody who ever had breakfast, dinner, lunch, or a drink with a Shanahan. I don't know where that comes from, but, you know. Listen, you can boo your team. I don't want this to be misconstrued that you're not able to boo your team. They aren't playing well. Boo your team. You don't boo an 80-year-old widow and their grandkids. That's my only point. You know, we have the social contract that we have, and I've talked about this in vlogs in the past. The social contract that we have with each other in this country, in this world, I guess, is not followed by many. All you need to do is be kind to people. I rip people here, but I don't think I go overboard and you know, I'm not going to boo an 80-year-old woman. I will get on a player who I don't think is making an effort, but by the way, the Packers were making a great effort last night. I'll get on Carlos. But I'm not going to do it in a mean-spirited way. Has anybody ever seen anything as mean-spirited as what we watched in Chicago last week? I'm sure there's examples out there. I just can't think of one. So feel free to share. Texas turned out better than I ever expected. Never thought they would. I did not think they'd go this far either. I think Stroud will come back to earth next season. Well, again, if you think he played over his head, I don't think he did. He showed great poise, even not playing well, and the team struggling badly. The offense struggled badly yesterday. Stroud showed great poise, and to me, to be able to maintain and be consistent in the type of year he had this year, you need that type of poise. And that, in a young quarterback, that shows me a lot. And that's one of the important things I need to see. Mac Jones did not show that poise, right? One of the reasons I don't have a lot of hope. And by the way, the Patriots may continue to try to rehabilitate Mac Jones from some reports over the last week because Kraft's like him. And there's a lot of crap going on. I talk about the stuff going on in Philadelphia and the stuff going on in Dallas. There was a lot of shit, excuse my French, going on behind the scenes in New England that we didn't know about until after the season. And after we had this lovey-dovey press conference where Bill Belichick said goodbye, and they did everything but swap spit. If you watched it close, there was a lot of awkwardness there. And it turns out there was a lot of crap going on behind the scenes. Belichick playing Mac Jones even when he should have pulled him just as a big FU to Kraft because he wouldn't let him trade him. A lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. The fact that they, for the last 4 years, the Krafts have derided Belichick behind his back every time they could. Just not a good situation. Chad, there is a time for booing, kind of like the slow clap. Has to be chosen wisely. I agree. Again, I'm not saying people can't boo, but boo. Kevin Myers, welcome to the show today. I think Kevin's been with us before. If you haven't, welcome. Good to have you. Can Buffalo handle the Ravens? I don't think Buffalo's going to get a chance myself. I think it's going to be Kansas City. I think both those teams, again, I like Kansas City. Excuse me about that. I like Kansas City until they lose. They got the best quarterback. They got the most poised quarterback. They got the guy least likely to make mistakes in these big games. Their defense is much better. I do think they get past Buffalo today, but it won't be easy. But I think both these teams are going to struggle mightily in Baltimore next year. My only caveat is going to be Lamar Jackson has yet to win 2 games in a playoff series, playoff run. So can they handle them? On any given day, yes. Again, I'll tell you what, the Ravens, though, all these teams have been blown out at one point or another this year. Is there a team left that hasn't been blown out except the Ravens? They led in the fourth quarter of every single game they've played this year. Good football team. I think it'll be a good matchup. Either way, but very tough for those teams to go on and win on the road. By the way, Mahomes is playing his first playoff game on the road today. He has not played a playoff game on the road. Excepting Super Bowls, of course. Rick Sherlock, speaking of fans, did you see the fan that approached LaFlop and got pushed away as he should have? No, I didn't. But you know what? Again, don't. Jesus Christ. Don't approach. You pay to get into a game. It doesn't give you the right to do anything you want. You can't throw food at them. You can't spit at them. You can't call them racial epithets. You can't rush the court and rush towards a player or walk towards a player. Well, I didn't see this, Rick, but I'm sure we're going to get a bunch of colorful variations of LeBron's name now. Stroud's the only Kenny talking about Stroud's the only Ohio State quarterback worthy of being a pro. Okay. I don't know why that, again, we talk about this all the time, and that's great. But I don't think, why is that a knock on Ohio State? It's not their job to produce quarterbacks for the NFL. It's their job to win college football games. I like the guy they brought in there, by the way. Will Howard's going to be a really good quarterback. Maybe he'll play in the next level. Don't care. When I talk about college quarterbacks, I talk about how great they are in college. There's a lot of questions for me about all these guys coming out this year. You know, and quarterbacks come from everywhere, right? How many great Michigan quarterbacks have there been? How many great Notre Dame quarterbacks have there been, Kenny? 1? 2, sorry. I can think of 2. I know you're a Notre Dame fan. I'm being serious. How many great quarterbacks have been that come out of Notre Dame? I can think of Theismann, and I can think of Montana. Who else? But again, it doesn't matter that there's still a great college program. I never understand why we go there. You got by the way, speaking of college sports, and we'll talk more about this on Wednesday night show. I don't think we're going to get to a lot of it today. We're already an hour into the show, and I do want to get in. I know Drew's probably going to want to get into the Hall of Fame talk and some other things. And I see some football comment from him coming up. But we'll get into all this Wednesday. But I don't have the kid's name in front of me. See if I can find it real quick. It doesn't matter. Tight end for Miami is getting a 9th year of eligibility. Kenny, you ought to love that. 9th year of eligibility. Unbelievable. He got an extension during COVID, I think. Who are we talking about? I don't know who we're talking about. We're talking about Dak now? Hard to say the Ravens offense isn't scary. It is scary. Again, anytime you got the weapon. I mean, think about the one play where Jackson tucked the ball. Touchdown. It was a touchdown play, I think, to Lively. Or maybe it was a 1-2 Aguilar. I don't remember. Where he rolled out and he put the ball away like he was going to run it. And then he's got a guy wide open. Once you do that and you commit to the guy running, you're going to find a guy wide open. So the offense is scary. Considering how they won this year, they have a solid running back in Hill, who stepped in for Dobbins, who got hurt again this year. Again, they ran for 2. And Cook didn't do bad. I guess he had one bad play. I know his average was like 3 yards a carry, but I think his very first play he got stuffed. Or maybe the first play he had a good run for the first play. But anyway, Dalvin Cook had a little depth to this team. Gus Edwards had an effective game. Justice Hill had a really good football game, I thought. There are a lot of weapons here. If they had a solid running back, they'd be even better. I think I read your comment wrong, Drew. Justice Hill was 13 for 66 with average 5 yards a carry. That's not terrible. It's funny because I missed the period and went right on to the running backs, which I tend to do. Sorry about that. Defenses do win championships, and that's what we forget about, man. You know, in this age, baseball, football, where all the rule changes are geared to help the offenses, it's still defenses that win football games. Even if it's a high-scoring game, you need to make stops in big points of the game. Ravens played really good defense. They didn't let the Texans get into any rhythm yesterday. And again, Stroud, I thought, played probably as well as he could with his receivers, not getting a lot of separation. Nico Collins did end up with 68 yards receiving, but just not enough. They couldn't run the football yesterday. The Ravens are going to be tough to beat at home. But again, there's still that stigma. Now, this I don't think this gets the monkey off their back. This win here, you beat a very young football team with some flaws at home. You should have beat this team. So I don't know that the monkey's off the Ravens' back until they win next week against Kansas City or Buffalo. So I just think there's a lot to go here. Anthony Price, they pay back. Well, yeah, and they paid Dak too much already. He's not getting an extension. They don't need to extend him. And they can't trade him. Dak is the quarterback in Dallas for the foreseeable future. Nobody's taken on a $61 million cap hit to trade for him. Dallas isn't going to take the cap hit to cut him. So either Dak is going to get over the hump. And by the way, sometimes it takes teams a long time to get over the hump. And guys, I thought about this a lot yesterday with McCarthy. How long did it take Tom Landry to get over the hump, by the way? Long time. Staubach didn't win championships. There was a lot of people who were down on Roger Staubach, including Tom Landry in his first few years in the league. Well, this isn't Dak's first few years, but Roger Staubach wasn't Roger Staubach until like year 6 or 7. He didn't even start the Super Bowl that they lost to the Colts. So, again, we're a right now society, and I'm the same way, man. We're a right now society. Mike McCarthy, in the grand scheme of things, has had a pretty good run with the Cowboys. So has Dak. Probably no worse than Landry and Staubach before they finally won a Super Bowl in 71. Staubach struggled a lot, and Landry wasn't sure. If you remember, they rotated quarterbacks for a while, rotated series with Craig Morton. Craig Morton was the quarterback in their first Super Bowl against the Colts, not Roger Staubach. Then things clicked. But right now, now if we don't win, and I've gotten to be the same way. He's just a storefront show and not a big time showman. Well, I know numbers aren't everything, but Dak is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in football. He just is. Good morning, Jeremy. I believe Jeremy's new with us today. Good to have you with us today. Jeremy Ballreich, if I'm saying your name correctly. Good to have you with us, Jeremy. Teams you follow, buddy. Listen, the Stream of Consciousness on Sundays, you're entitled to bring up anything you want, and we'll talk about it. We're trying to stay away from you guys have done a great job, too. We'll have to take a break here for Jim Beringer when he pops in. I'm not sure. Jim didn't tell me what time he was going to pop on. Oh, maybe I got something from him. Hold on. Nope. That is lunch. No, sorry. That's from Jersey Mike's. Conspiracy started by Basement Bob. Basement Bob comes up on every show. For those of you who are new to the show, Basement Bob is a guy who wanted to sue me for my I did a vlog one time advocating a 16-team playoff in the NCAA where every conference champion gets in, similar to basketball. So there'd be 10 and then 6 wild cards. I'm not the first guy ever to champion this, by the way, but this guy on YouTube wanted to sue me, threatened all kinds of crap, and did it for months. He's living in his grandma's basement, and he probably needs some money. Drew, Facebook sucks. I agree 100%. You were on the TGI Sports feed, but I'm also on it now. I got out, then back in, saw different people in the comments each time. Just depends on how Facebook connects me. It's ridiculous. Facebook, you do suck, by the way. And you can block my page again. Just quit messing with people. I hope everybody's getting through. For those of you whose comments are not getting through, I apologize. This is not me. If I'm not sharing your comment, it's because it's not showing up for me. And I don't know. Are you seeing your comment on Facebook, Drew? It could be a StreamYard thing. And in all fairness to, I guess, to Facebook, you do suck, by the way. But it could be StreamYard. I'm not sure. Oh, God. John agrees with me. There's one guy agreeing with me. See, when I first went to Facebook in 2009, it was good. It has gotten bad, right, John? And now what do? Right? I've built up a great following here. You've done a tremendous job with the sports authorities and guys, especially I've said this before, Jeremy, and some of you new guys that have come on. Make sure you get to the sports authority. John runs a great group over there. Good nostalgia stuff, good contemporary stuff. A lot of fun over there. And what do you do, John? You got a ton of followers. You're gonna what are you gonna do? Bob Heidel. I can't ever say your name right, John. Heidelberg. Big Patriot historian. Great to have you with us today. Stanley Morgan and Rodney Harrison should be in the Pro Football Hall of Famers. Absolutely 100% agreed. Rodney Harrison may still get there. Stanley Morgan's probably got no shot. Bob, great to have you with us today. I was thinking about you the other day as I was seeing some of your comments about something. I said, I haven't seen John in a while, or Bob in a while. And because I'm glad you came on today, and I hope you're still here, Bob, because I want to say, I'll add one to that real quickly, and he just retired. Matthew Slater has got to be in a Pro Football Hall of Fame and join his dad there. Special teamers have a hard time getting in there. But Matthew Slater has been a great special teams player, pretty much exclusively. I know he played a little bit of wide receiver, but not enough to say it will warrant any consideration. One of the best special team players in the history of college football. I'm having a bad time today. In the history of professional football, and a classy individual besides. I'd love to get your opinion on that. And I agree 100%. Stanley Morgan, the game is played so much differently. His numbers don't stand up to the numbers we see today. I mean, Stanley Morgan might catch 36, 46, 50 balls a year and have a great year back when he played. And I'm sure he had some years with more catches than that. But I watched Stanley all through the years. I had season tickets out there in the 80s, through the 80s. Great deep threat. And he definitely belongs in there. Rodney Harrison was in. Listen, Rodney Harrison's a guy. And Bob, I bet you anything you'll agree with me. But great Pat's historian, Bob is, by the way, guys, again. Rodney Harrison's a guy you hate when he's on another team. When he was on your team, you really appreciate everything he does. And I would guarantee you in 2007, Harrison knocks that ball out of David Tyree's hands 9 times out of 10. There's not a guy I'd want on that play. The helmet catch I'm talking about. I know Bob knows what I'm talking about. The helmet catch. There's not another guy I would want on that play to break it up, and how he didn't, I'll never know. A CA, YT is a lesser of the evils. I'm not sure what that is. Ed from Columbus is with us. Good question. I was hoping I'd come, and I want to ask him about Bill O'Brien. Congratulations to the Ohio State Buckeyes on winning the 2024 national championship. I gotta again, maybe. I love it when you guys are so confident. Bill O'Brien, OC, Caleb Downs transfer, team loaded. Don't forget Will Howard at quarterback. Will Howard had a really good career at K-State. Big kid. I think he's a great addition. I'm sure there'll be competition, but I'm positive Will Howard will be your starting quarterback next year. Whether that translates into the 2024 national championship, I'll hold my congratulations for a bit, Ed, but they're going to be very good. Bill O'Brien's a very good offensive coordinator. I would not hold this year's results against him. There was a lot of things going on behind the scenes still. They had done such a good job of destroying Mac Jones' confidence in his second year that it just carried over. And Mac Jones had no chance. And again, Mac Jones can't be absolved totally. But some of the things that have come out, Belichick didn't want the kid. Wanted to trade him. Crafts wouldn't let him. And I'm not saying he should be traded. There's a lot of talk they will try to rehabilitate him. Maybe Bob's got some comments about that. But Bill O'Brien is a good offensive coordinator. Had a good run with the Patriots the first time around. Of course, he had Tom Brady as quarterback. Did a good job at Penn State. Didn't do a bad job at with the Texans until later on when he had some issues. Maybe he had too much power. Rehabbed his reputation very well at Alabama, and I think he'll do quite well. I think of Bill O'Brien. I said this earlier on the big football show with Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat and Sonia. I think of Bill O'Brien as a head coach again. It'll be in college, actually. If that's not the case, he would not have taken an offensive coordinator job at Ohio State. He'd look for one in the NFL. Kenny says Facebook's out of control. Besides jailing people, they show porn, dogs getting killed, and all kinds of stuff that's very disturbing. See, I don't ever see any of that stuff in my feed. I don't know why. There are things that are questionable to come up my feed. I have no idea. I've never seen this stuff, but I don't disagree. You know, some people should be jailed, but when they jail you, and again, I wasn't necessarily jailed, because when people get jailed, I think they still see, and you can correct me, Kenny, because I think you've been in Facebook jail. They took my whole page down. TGI Sports Talk was gone. I could not even access it. And they never once gave me a reason or how long it would be. I just had to wait it out. I mean, and again, there's a lot of hate on social media. I hate it. My hate is, I don't think it's hate. I think, I try to be constructively critical of people. There's some people I'll hate on. I think they deserve it. I'm sorry. When there's a guy playing football in Cleveland who's getting paid maybe more than anybody in the game, and he's basically a serial rapist, well, then I'm going to say that. I'm not going to say his name. Chad, Sportscope, and Robert having issues with Facebook. What's going on there? Robert, by the way, Robert Butler and Sportscope is a great, great show. I know Chad follows him as well. Can watch him on Northeast Streaming Sports. I think on Let's Talk Sports as well. I'm not sure. I'm wondering what problems Robert's having. I'll have to reach out to him and find out. Jerry Jones wished for one Super Bowl right after he fired Jimmy Johnson. Well, he got one. And with Jimmy's team, by the way, Barry Switzer, not respected by that team any way, shape, or form. There's some great video of, and I just saw it again recently, of Troy Aikman going off during a bad game during Barry Switzer's watch. And he made no secret of the fact that he was not a fan of the head coach. And he treads very lightly in that regard now. But so the last Super Bowl he won was probably in 95 with Barry Switzer, and I think they beat the Steelers that year. He wanted one, he got it. He hasn't won in 30 years. Hasn't got to a Super Bowl. I don't think he's been to a conference championship since then. In fact, I know he hasn't been. What's going on? You got a cat meowing or something. Yeah. But Jerry, listen, Jerry's done a good job, and his team has done a good job of putting talented players together. That's a talented football team. So we can bust the coach. I mean, I've tried to defend the coach. I don't know who to blame there. Same way with the Eagles. I don't know who to blame. Not close enough to the situation. It's easy from the outside to point fingers. It's tough, though. Good point, Jeremy. This rumor of Bill in Atlanta is shocking, and Harbaugh probably will take only an NFC job, if any. I don't know, CA. The two jobs that I know he's interviewed for are the Chargers and Atlanta. I'm trying to think what NFC jobs are open besides Atlanta. I don't know if there are any NFC jobs open besides Atlanta. I'm going to think off the top of my head without looking. Well, I guess I'll look. Let's look real quick. The Washington's looking for a job. Listen, Harbaugh would be a good fit in Washington. Saints ought to be looking for a job after Dennis Allen obviously doesn't have control over that team, as we saw in the last game of the year. Carolina's looking for, okay, so there's more teams. Who's taking over that Carolina team? Who's going to go work for David Tepper? Who's going to go work for him? And Seattle. So there's quite a few jobs. Listen, he might be a good fit in Seattle. Why do you think it's shocking for Bill in Atlanta, by the way? I see Jim popping in, so we're going to go through some of these comments kind of quickly. McCarthy has a winning record. That's closer to John Harbaugh, I guess. John grew up liking the Chiefs and Lenny Dawson. I like that team, too. One of the first teams I remember watching a lot, even before I became a Patriot fan, because I remember that Christmas Day game against Miami in the early 70s. Jeremy says it took linebacker Christian Harris getting hurt. I said that he may not have been here, but I was talking about that very fact earlier here and also on the Big Football Show with Mac, Jack, and Jim and Sonia. That he did a great job shadowing Lamar, and they shut that offense down pretty good before he got hurt. He did come back in, but he wasn't the same player once he got back. I'm going to try very hard to get through these before I bring Jim in, but I got an awful lot. We're going to have to come back to these comments, I guess, guys, because there's a lot here, and I got to get Jim in here so we can talk some hockey, and we're going to let Jim talk about whatever he wants today. Jim Beringer from FullPressHockey.com and Let's Talk Sports. How are you today, Jim?
I'm doing well, Keith. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. Lots to talk about. Him and I in a couple weeks, and we've been talking mostly NFL. But
I was 2 for 2 yesterday, so hey, that's not bad.
I was 0 for 2, so covering games, I should say. I did have the 49ers.
I mean, I didn't cover any games. I didn't put money on them, but I just predicted Ravens and 49ers.
I did think Ravens and 49ers would win, but I had the Texans to cover the 9.5 points, and then I also had 49ers to cover 10, so we're 0 for 2, but that's irregardless. What are you going to do? Any thoughts, before we jump into the NHL, which we normally have you on? Again, we're really stream of conscious in it lately, and you got any? What are your others? I want to ask this.
Okay.
There's one topic I want to talk to you about, and if you got anything else going on in the world of sports you want to talk about, I know you're well-rounded, so we'll certainly let you air your grievances there. One thing that's really pissed me off the last week is this whole treatment of Jerry Krause's widow in Chicago when they're honoring the 90s team. The disgusting display of those Chicago fans booing an 80-year-old woman, widow, and her grandsons is one of the worst things I've seen in sports.
All right, so here's the deal. You don't have a 90s Bulls celebration without the team there. There was no Rodman, there was no Jordan, there was no Pippen. Yeah. That's the problem. That wouldn't have happened if those guys were there. Because Jordan would have the cheers for Jordan would have gone on for minutes, hours. They probably wouldn't even play the game. But Pippen doesn't like Michael. This guy don't like this guy. Then don't have it. That's where I come from. That's why they call me the voice of reason. Personally, I would have not done the ceremony, but you don't boo an 80-year-old widow, despite what you think of Jerry Krause.
Look, you know what? Jerry Krause put together 6 championship teams. I know he broke it up, and that's all they remember.
Well, look, he did put together 6 championship teams, but he was trying to break that team up long before.
Well, that's true.
Before they broke up in 99. And by the way, if everybody remembers 1999, yes, the San Antonio Spurs won the NBA championship. Don't forget, there was a half-season lockout. You're telling me the Bulls together with a half-season off, well-rested, aren't going to win another NBA championship?
Yeah, I agree. But still, you know what? Jerry Krause is gone and dead. Don't boo his freaking widow. It's just
that's uncalled
one of the worst
for.
Things I've seen, and it's a microcosm of our society today.
Totally uncalled for. Didn't need to happen. Unnecessary. We needed Greg Popovich there for what? was going on because of, what happened with,
He wouldn't even let him boo Kawhi Leonard.
No, exactly. So that's what I said. I think you get Coach Pop there. I think stuff would have happened. Even Steve Kerr was not happy about what happened in Chicago. He was not a fan of it. So, hey.
Before we get into the big news in the NHL, anything else on your mind you'd like to get off your chest about the world of sports in general, the NFL coaching situation, playoffs?
Jerry Jones made a big mistake keeping Mike McCarthy.
You think?
I think so.
Today, I said a few minutes ago, how long did it take Landry and Staubach to win a Super Bowl? Quite a while.
Yes, but don't forget but Jerry Jones wasn't the owner.
Understood. I get that.
Look, when
Jerry
you have,
Jones is the problem.
but
Jerry Jones
also
is the problem, not Mike McCarthy. Then,
but here's the thing. I've always said Jerry Jones, the GM, needs to get out of the way of Jerry Jones, the owner, right? With Belichick, with Vrabel, with Harbaugh, with talented guys out there, you need to look. You need to inquire. If you decide after you inquire and then you decide that Mike McCarthy is the best option, that's fine. But to not even consider it.
That's one thing, though, that I never like. If you got a guy, you got to fire him before you go look for a new guy.
Right. But here's the thing, though. I mean, you knew what was out there. And the way they came out against the Packers, that was disgrace. That was a disgrace.
Yeah. No, that was awful. I mean, they weren't prepared, and that's
on the coach.
That's on the coach. It's on the players, though, too. But, yes, it's on the coach. At the end of the day, it's on the coach.
Here's the thing. If you say in the National Hockey League, we're going to get to it in a minute. Can't fire all the players.
No.
And what happens, here's the problem. Now you go into next year, and everybody's going to wonder about Mike McCarthy. That's going to be the storyline.
Agreed.
Because what happens when that team goes on a losing streak?
The big mistake, if you're going to bring him back, you can't bring him back without adding a year to his contract. You can't. Lame duck coaches are never good in sports.
No, they're not. They're not. Especially, like I said, with the talent that's out there. How are you not looking? How do you not know? You know who's out there. I understand back-to-back 12-win seasons. I get it. The NFC East Championship. Dallas hasn't won a playoff game in how long? Like I said, they're the Toronto Maple Leafs of the National Football League.
Well, I think they've won one in the last year.
Yeah, okay. So the Toronto Maple Leafs have won one playoff round since 2004. Yeah. There you go.
They haven't made it to an NFC Championship game in 30 years, so.
Right. So, I mean, in the last time I checked, they haven't won a Super Bowl since 1995. So,
yeah, same year they got their last NFC Championship game, yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, put two and two together.
Switzer wins with Johnson's team. So
right, exactly. So Jimmy Johnson won 3 Super Bowls. There you go.
Lots going on. Well, there's lots going on in hockey too. So let's
let's go to it. It's right here. There it is. Bang, bang, right there. Yeah. Big news out of the National Hockey League yesterday. Patrick Waugh comes back to the National Hockey League as a head coach for the New York Islanders. Lou Lamoriello. This was shocking. I was doing a hit with somebody else. Hopped on with the guys from Real to Sports podcast. Those guys, good dudes over there. They had me and my buddy Justin on. We were just talking some football. And, I get the text and I was like, wait, this can't be right. This, I had to double check it because, you don't know these days. Somebody's pulling a prank. No, legit. Patrick Waugh goes to the Islanders, Lane Lambert. Now, this was in the works. I'm going to tell you this. Lane Lambert, earlier in the year, there were talks about him going. And if Carlos is around, you know how I feel. Barry Trotz should have never left the New York Islanders, but he's doing a hell of a job as the general manager down in Nashville right now. The team is in wild card contention, shot for the playoffs, could extend UC Soros. Patrick Waugh is a great coach. You look what he did with the Quebec Ramparts, 2 Memorial Cups. Last year was his last year with Quebec. He does a great job. Wins another Memorial Cup. He's been in the NHL before with Colorado. Took him to a Central Division Championship, 112 points. Yes, they lost to Minnesota.
Things didn't end well there, though, right?
Things did not end well there, but he has admitted mistakes that he's learned from. And the mistake was you just don't walk out on the team. You just don't hire a PR firm to let them know, hey, I'm not coming back. You need to go through the right channels. And he understands that now. And, time heals everything. So you knew he was going to eventually come back. There were there were teams looking at him. I know Ottawa was looking at him. There was another team out there that was definitely looking at Patrick Waugh. I'm trying to figure out who that other team was, but I know it was Ottawa. You don't be surprised. And this is what we're talking about, coaches, right? If there's a guy you want, you go get him. And that's what Lamoriello does. And Lou Lamoriello is not afraid to fire head coaches, right? Saw what he did in 2000, Robbie Ftorek, 7 games left in the season. By Larry Robinson come in. Claude Julien, a game left in the season, fired, goes behind the bench. We know what that story is about. Yeah. And then Claude Julien has a great career coaching. That was the worst mistake he ever made. And that was one of worst of his mistakes. The team's not doing well. Could just fire the coach, okay? And look what Claude Julien did as a head coach in the National Hockey League. Look, Lane Lambert, they were able to ride the ship early. The problem is, and look, Patrick's a great coach. This is a talented roster, but it's an old roster. And this is the problem for the New York Islanders. They've had an old roster now for a long time. And Lamoriello refuses to do this rebuild. And it needed to happen a couple of years ago. They needed to get younger. It's a young man's game.
Yeah.
And they're getting beat on pucks a lot. And look, Barry Trotz played a certain way. Lane Lambert tried to be Barry Trotz. He's not. Yes, they went to the playoffs last year. Doesn't matter. This team is underperforming in the eyes of the general manager, and he goes back to what he knows, the Montreal Canadian connection. Yes, Patrick wasn't there before the dynasty years, but he's praised Patrick Waugh as a player. We know what he's done as a goaltender.
Played pretty well.
Think about it. New Jersey, 95, the banner, right? Think about it. 95 brings in Jacques Lemaire. 2000, Larry Robinson. Pat Burns coached the Montreal Canadiens. Now you have Patrick Waugh, who's a legendary goaltender with the Montreal Canadiens.
That's pretty good track record there. So look,
I mean, it's a really great track record. Look, Patrick's done a great job in the junior level. I think he's going to do a great job with this Islanders team. I do think they need tweaks. Lamoriello admitted it yesterday on a press call that though he likes the roster, he isn't afraid to shake things up. But but this team is older. And also, like, you think about it. You go back to the offseason. You give Pierre Engvall 7 years at $3 million, and you healthy scratch him. I mean, Pierre Engvall's a good player. 7 years at $3 million. I mean, look, again, you have to, the term and the AAV balance everything out. But this is an older team. And look, Kyle Palmieri is a great kid. He's Jersey boy, everything. Goal scorers are streaky. Horvat's playing better. Barzell's playing better. But they need help, and they just don't have offensive talent. And Lamoriello, my biggest critique of him, and I think he was a great general manager. Don't get me wrong. I think he is. But he has not handled the salary cap era well. And that's his one fault.
Good point. Guys, just so you know, I know there's a lot of comments before we brought Jim in. I'll get back once Jim gets us updated on all his important news. I'm going to go back, and we'll go long today if we have to, so don't worry. I see Paul Ayers jumps in the room. I want to welcome Paul in. Elsewhere, a lot of big stuff going on. Edmonton is on a historic roll for them, aren't they?
13 in a row, best ever in franchise history. You got to play La Bamba if you have it, because that's their win song. It started years ago.
To me, Edmonton.
No, so here's the story. Wait, here's the story behind that. Here's the story behind La Bamba. So there was a young kid who had Down syndrome. Unfortunately, Ben Seltzer passed away last year, and he was the one that came to Connor McDavid and said, "Play La Bamba" after the game, cool. And that's how it started. So
that's a cool story. That's good.
Yeah. Like so unfortunately, Ben has moved on, but they do it in his honor. And look, we talked about earlier in the year about the Edmonton Oilers. They make the coaching change. Jay Woodcroft goes out. Chris Knobloch, former Hartford Wolfpack head coach, comes in. that nothing's much changed except you add Paul Coffey to the defense. But here's the thing. This is the one thing I've noticed. And when I talked to Connor McDavid, Ryan McLeod, when Edmonton was in New Jersey back in December, they all said the same thing. No matter what the situation is, we have to be patient. And they're being patient defensively now. They're playing better structured defensively. They've won 13 in a row. Gretzky's Oilers did not win 13 games in a row. This is amazing what this team is doing. And this is a team everybody expected them to be. You feel bad for a guy like Jay Woodcroft because it's the same team.
Yeah.
But the defensive structure is just better. And they're more patient with the puck. They know if things don't go their way, they're not going to chase the game. They're letting the game come to them. And you're seeing that with the other teams around the league that are struggling, like Toronto, like New Jersey, like Minnesota, like other teams that have made coaching changes. They're trying to chase the game too much. When you sit back and you play your patient game and you say, okay, we're going to let the other team make the mistake. We're just going to play smart hockey. You end up winning hockey games.
Is this a good run? Just a good run for Edmonton, or are they legitimate contenders out west?
I mean, look, there's legit contenders. They can win. Look, they can play well. Again, it's January, so it's January. Talk to me in April and May when his team loses again in the second round. I think they're motivated to win. They're going to hit a lull some point again. They want to add goaltending. They want to add a second line, third line center. They would love to add that, a winger somewhere along the way. They want to add a backup goaltender because Stuart Skinner is going to get burnt out the way he's playing. Calvin Pickard, they like him, but they got to get somebody in there, and they just don't trust Jack Campbell right now. But so, I mean, look, you go north of the border, right, and you think about this, right? Edmonton, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Toronto, like those are the legit Toronto's having their troubles right now. We'll get to them in a minute. But Vancouver, Winnipeg, Edmonton,
all playing great hockey right now.
All playing great hockey,
yeah.
And those three teams have legit chances to win Stanley Cup.
And we talk about this all the time. I feel like it would be good for the NHL to have a Canadian champion, I think, again soon.
I mean, you know how I feel about Canada winning a Stanley Cup. So
yeah. Let's move east for a second. Should Ranger fans be concerned about this recent swoon that's seen them lose a couple in a row? I think they're 3-6-1, maybe their last 10. Should we be concerned?
Yeah, I think you'd be a little concerned. They're not playing that well right now under Laviolette. I think the bigger concern is that Igor Shesterkin is really inconsistent this year. I think that's a bigger concern. Like, he's still playing well. Don't get me wrong, but they're not playing great right now. Look, they played a good LA Kings team that was desperate to win a hockey game last night. And Jonathan Quick's returned back to LA, and he's going to brush it off to the New York media that it's just another video. And, he's still a little bitter how things ended in LA, and I don't blame him. I really don't. I think talking to some people, he expected to be a King for life, but he played really well. He's playing really well, but that's the issue. That's what I said this year. Jonathan Quick, fine. He's making me eat crow. It's all well and good, but when he has to be the guy doing everything, that's a problem. And Panarin's playing MVP level, but you need other guys to step up, and right now they're just not doing it. And I think Blake Wheeler's signing was bad for this team. I really do.
Yeah. Who else in the East are we surprised about the Flyers' success, or is there anybody else?
I think I'm surprised that it's sustained this long. I mean, look, John Tortorella is a good head coach. Look, Owen Tippett's playing well. Morgan Frost. You have Samuel Ersson on the back end. Carter Hart. Now you bring in Jamie Drysdale with the Cutter Gauthier situation. He's playing well. That makes one of their defensemen expendable at the deadline. Maybe a Nick Seeler, maybe a Sean Walker. Most likely Walker. I think Seeler is going to get re-signed there and extended. But they're playing well. And Tortorella, here's the thing with Torts, right? Everybody says he's against young players. I talked to somebody in Philadelphia. He said he's not against the young players. He's all for young players playing. He just wants them to work hard. Like, he can live with the mistakes. If you work hard, he likes it. And I think Tortorella is adapting to the new NHL. I really do. Like, I've really seen it.
He's not a guy that I thought would be very adaptable. He reminds me a lot of Mike Keenan a little bit in that sense. Keenan was more of a hard ass than Tortorella is. Like, I've heard stories about Keenan that are ridiculous. Well, he did get a Stanley Cup to New York. We know that.
Hey, Oilers. Hey, Oilers East won the cup in '94. Let's remember that. The Oilers East won the cup. No, I'm just kidding. No, all kidding aside. No, all kidding aside.
Actually, but...
No, all kidding aside. No, all kidding aside. All kidding aside. The Rangers won the cup in '94. They're looking to get back there. Look, we know. And I want to give a shout out right now at Sports Illustrated because I still have the cover somewhere. What's hot and what's not. The worst thing that happened in the National Hockey League after the Rangers won the cup in 1994, as much as it pains me that they won the cup in that Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Final, I have nightmares about that game.
Best hockey game I ever watched, by the way.
Best series I ever watched. Best game I ever watched. The fact that the league shut down for half a season after the Rangers won the Stanley Cup was the worst thing that happened.
Yeah.
I just want to put that out there.
What else is going around the league we should know about, Jim?
All right, so you go up to Toronto. I don't know if I was on when William Nylander got his new extension. He got an 8-year deal.
So.
8-year deal, 11-5. Again, the same problems with the Toronto Maple Leafs that we're doing. We're just going to give contracts to guys, and we're just going to be over the salary. No, don't get me wrong. Nylander's a good player. But, again, we need to evaluate what this team is right now. And, okay, so Mitch Marner comes up next year. John Tavares comes up next year. What are we doing? They have to play better defensively. They need to get defense. They need to get a better goal. Like Martin Jones and Samsonov are playing well, but they have structural problems defensively. And let's be honest, guys are on a hot seat in Toronto. Like Sheldon Keefe, he got a contract extension. We know ownership doesn't like to fire guys before their extension kicks in. Pressure's real in Toronto right now. As much as I compare what Mitch Marner and Mitch Marner said to what Nick Saban says a lot, the rat poison. Like they're calm and cool when they lose. They're like, we just don't understand where this stuff comes from. It's like, okay, so you're basically saying the media is just rat poison then. So, but they have problems defensively and everybody sees it. And that's an issue for them. But Nylander got his extension. It's going to be interesting to see what they do next year with Marner and Tavares. And if Tavares does come back, it's going to be not at what he's getting now. He may not come back. And Marner, we'll see what Marner gets. I mean, he may fall between Austin and Willie, or do they decide to move on? I mean, Brad Trilling has a lot of tough questions to ask of himself right now in this team.
This team's not guaranteed to make the playoffs either.
No, this team is not guaranteed to make the playoffs either. And maybe that's a good thing because the last couple of years, it was kind of cruise city from this point on. They didn't face a lot of adversity. Yeah. Maybe this adversity is going to help this Toronto Maple Leafs team do better in the playoffs. But possible. I'm not sold. I'm not sold the way they've been playing.
We got a question from Rick here before we wrap things up. So he knows the NHL is trying to move away from dirty physical hockey, but who is the toughest player still in the league?
I mean, Revo's still in the league. He plays for Toronto, but he's hurt. I mean, Nick Cousins is a dirty hockey player. I don't like to call out guys for that, but, what he did with Gabrenson and Scheifele, and then, I could steal Kevin Biek's spiel had he had on Hockey Night in Canada about Nick Cousins. He plays at a line, but the problem is he crosses the line and there's no accountability for it. When Brendan Smith hurt Connor Bedard, Nick Foligno and Smith decided that it was a heavyweight tilt, so we got to go at it. But, it is moving away from that, but it's not, especially in the playoffs. Like the games change back to physical hockey in the playoffs. So I don't think guys are moving away from it, but again, Nick Cousins would be a guy.
Is the game better? Look, the athletes are better today. Right. They're better in every sport, right? But is the game better than it was in the 70s when we had the Broad Street Bullies and those types of guys? Because you get to see.
It depends on who you talk to.
Yeah,
like guys in Philadelphia love it. I mean, the Broad Street Bullies, right? They won back-to-back Stanley Cups, and then you talk to people in Montreal. What happened in '76? Well, Montreal restored order to the National Hockey League. Like Montreal restored order. And, they got the Stanley Cup. Remember, the famous game, the Russians came in. They're going home.
Right.
Like, they played the ball. They're going home. Yes, remember, I never watched it live, but I heard the call. Yeah. They're going home. Well, you know why they came back? they weren't getting paid. So
Right. To Carlos' point, now there's a difference between goons and tough physical hockey players. I mean, it's two different things, really.
Yeah. I mean, the age of the goon is gone. I think it's tough. I think the tough Legion of Boom didn't win nothing.
Yeah.
Legion of Doom, I should say, of Lindros. Oh my God, Renberg and Leclerc.
Never won a thing. Correct.
Never won a thing.
Ugh.
They went to a cup final in '97 and got beat by Detroit because they had shoddy goaltending.
Good grief. Jim, what do you want to leave us with today, whether it's hockey or anything else?
I mean, look, the sport's in a good spot. I think everything, they're playing well. The action is great. I mean, but New Jersey's just not playing well defensively. They got defensive issues. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. Florida's team is for real. Boston continues to play well. What else is new? They still need a second line center or a center. Period. Florida is playing great. Sam Reinhart's on another level right now. He's going to get paid this offseason. And you look around the league and you say to yourself, okay, well, who's the Hart Trophy winner right now? Because there's so many guys, right? Is it Nate McKinnon? Is it Kucherov? Is it Panarin? Is it Pasternak? Like, is it Austin Matthews? Like, there's so much great talent out there right now. It's great to see. The league is in such a great place.
It is for sure. And then with the playoffs coming, there's only 37 regular season games left. It's hard to believe
I know the All-Star break's coming up in a couple of weeks, and who knows? I mean, the trade deadline's March 8th, so there's a lot of fun and exciting things. Shane Pinto returns tonight for Ottawa. He'll be back in the lineup for the Senators as they take on the Flyers. He signed his 1-year deal coming off his suspension for gambling. Again, all right. So if everybody remembers the old sports reporters on ESPN, they always had like a little They always had like a closing monologue of a hot topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to get on my high horse for a minute here and just talk about the Shane Pinto situation, okay? I understand what he did was wrong. I understand he had a proxy. I understand the leagues want to come down on players for doing it. That's all well and good, but I don't want to see commercials then for every 5 minutes about gambling and odds and all that stuff.
Preaching to the choir, brother. I can tell you right now.
So that's my little sports reporter's monologue to close out.
I like it.
To close out TGI Sports Talk today.
I like you. I appreciate you coming on. Listen, I'd like to come on Wednesday if you can, because you and I haven't had a chance to talk about the Saban retirement and the changes in Alabama, and I'd like to have a chance to do that and maybe a couple other things if you're free.
Yeah, let me just check my schedule. I can talk to you, and then we'll catch up.
Yeah, let me know, and if not, we'll do it all the next. Yeah, I've got 2 Wednesdays, and I'm away again. So, but yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jim, thanks for coming in. As always, you are a wealth of knowledge, just not in the National Hockey League, but in all sports. And thanks for coming in today, and we'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon.
All right. Have a good night.
Hey, have a good day, everybody. Enjoy football.
All right. Bye, guys. The great Jim Beringer from FullPressHockey.com and Let's Talk Sports, full of hockey knowledge. And, guys, I'm going to get back to your comments. So we're going to go backwards in time here. We're going to catch up. Kenny giving a good thanks to Jim. Good stuff there. Mike Lupic over here for the sports reporters. I'm going to go backwards just for a couple of hockey things. Then we'll go back to where I left off if I can find it. The fights were one reason to watch hockey then. I think the fights have kind of, I like the physicality. I like a fight here and there. Not when they're breaking out every 5 minutes. You get to see, I think, the athleticism of these guys a little bit better without as much fighting. Yeah, we're getting that. So let me go back. I'm going to try to find out where I left off. I see your comment there about quarterbacks, Kenny, but I want to get back to wow, I'm up. I got a lot. We got a lot to catch up on. So you guys keep going. We're going to go long today. It's already 10:14. So, oh my God, we missed a lot of stuff. Here we go. There we go. Kenny, I think I left off with here, right around here, talking about the Chiefs. Harris, we talked about Harris. Thank you, Jeremy, for that. Liking Harbaugh in Washington as an outsider, Alec talks about. I like that as well. Drew, if you're still here, hopefully you got some comments in here. If you don't, I hope you're finding a way to get in, because I would like to. If we don't get into the Hall of Fame talk today, the announcement for the Baseball Hall of Fame will be Monday, and we'll have a MLB. Hopefully, we'll have a show for the MLB Friday. I may have to. Yeah, I may be. We'll figure something out. We're going to definitely be talking some MLB Hall of Fame talk with Drew. A.J. Brown needs to be questioned about giving up on his teammates in the playoffs. I agree that A.J. Brown is one of the big problems in Philadelphia. But I'm wondering about Jalen Hurts. A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts have a problem as peers, and I worry about Nick Sirianni and his hold over this locker room. But the quarterback's got to be a leader. Jalen Hurts is not leading this team. If you watched his body language against the Giants in the last regular season game, that Peg said they didn't care about winning, which is just BS. They didn't care. They could have won the division, improved their lot, played at home. You don't think that would have mattered? Maybe it wouldn't have, as it turned out. But it looks like Sirianni's going to keep his job. Jalen Hurts needs to look himself in the mirror and find out whether he wants to be an elite NFL quarterback, which means you lead your team. You stop this nonsense on the field. The body language Jalen Hurts showed me, especially last week in Tampa, was awful for somebody who you're going to pay tons of money to lead your team to the promised land. Not done very well. Carlos says, Jeremy, answering Jeremy, Ravens defense is just getting better and better. I do not disagree with that at all. Who's sleeping with who? I lost track of what we were talking about, CA. And Jeremy answering Carlos, they do get better. Baltimore's playing great. Chad Collins was surprised the Patriots didn't get Vrabel. I'm not. I knew last year they made promises to Gerard Mayo not to interview for head coaching jobs or even defensive coordinator jobs with other teams. I did not know, and we know this now, they could not make Vrabel the coach because it was in Mayo's contract. And also, by the way, one of the key contributors to getting this done was Bill Belichick, along with Bob Kraft, obviously, to put in Gerard Mayo's contract that he would be the coach in waiting whenever Bill Belichick left, whether it was this year or 5 years from now. So we knew it was going to be him. Morant, I'm not sure what that's about. What were we talking about with Morant, by the way, has turned into a freaking prima donna. I don't know if that's about the Gary Payton question or what that might be, Rick, but if it warrants a reply, go ahead. I heard Vrabel is heading to Seattle. If Mike Vrabel wants to coach, Mike Vrabel will coach this year. I think he'd be a good fit in Seattle. I think he'd be a good fit in San Diego. They should be in San Diego, the Chargers. He would have been a good fit in Dallas, as we talked about. I don't think Vrabel's going somewhere like Carolina. So I just don't think that's going to happen. Carlos, he liked that Love played well. He's no Aaron Rodgers. Listen, first of all, he's in his first year. Aaron Rodgers didn't play as well as Davis Love. He didn't play golf. Jordan Love played in his rookie season. Played good. Packers were competitive. To be honest, they had the opportunity to win, but fell short. I agreed with all of that. The only thing I disagreed with you about, and by the way, I'm not sure that he won't be as good as Aaron Rodgers one day. Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, and he's not a freaking crazy person like Aaron Rodgers is. My problem with what you said earlier was that they did not show fight. I can't remember exactly what you said, but that was the deal. John Gonzalez still with us. My prediction, Carlson will never step on Lambeau Field wearing a Packer uniform again. Well, that's quite possible. Not a good. Listen, he misses a field. To be fair, though, that field goal, well, again, at the time, you don't know what it's going to mean, right? San Francisco also missed and had a fairly easy field goal in my mind blocked. So they kind of gave it back, but I get it, today, but don't leave it on your kicker. You need to score touchdowns today. The NFL's a little different than it was even 10 years ago, where we'd see too many field goals and kickers were making a difference in every game. You got to score touchdowns. The Packers left a lot of points on the field. Philadelphia throws, well, if we're talking about Philadelphia, they booed Santa Claus and they threw snowballs at him. I believe Harbaugh will take a job in the NFC, which we were talking about earlier. This is Anthony talking to CA, and easy road to the Super Bowl, easier road. I guess he's saying easier road to the Super Bowl than the NFC. Easy road to the more easy, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. I can't speak as usual. Possibly. But again, you might have a better chance at the Super Bowl in LA with the Chargers than you do in Atlanta. Well, you can get the playoffs easier in Atlanta. Find a quarterback. That's the thing. If I'm Harbaugh or Belichick, I want a quarterback. I'm not sure why, and I think Belichick it's at least 50-50 and maybe a little more that he's going to be the coach in Atlanta. They want to go through, they have to still do their Rooney Rule stuff. They have to interview some outside minority candidates. Plus Harbaugh's getting another interview there, but I still think it might be Belichick there in Atlanta. But if I was Belichick, I'd want to go somewhere with a quarterback. I just left a place without a quarterback, and look what happened. Of course, you caused some of that problem, Bill, just to be clear. Cheering and injury rates up there. I agree with that 100%, Rick. Well, I guess cheering and injury is kind of where I was going. Never root for guys to get hurt. Never bask in their getting hurt. I think I probably said booing an injury, but cheering an injury would be kind of what I meant. Shows me people never played the game. You should never root for an injury. When my team's playing whatever, the best team in football or the best player in football, I've got a better chance to win if that guy goes out. But I'm never going to root for that guy to get hurt. I want to beat them at their full strength. CA, on the other hand, the Lions aren't getting worse. They're better. They're a good team at home for sure. Bears probably can't get worse. Bears, we can get on the Bears. Bears were 7-6 in their last 13 games. If I'm the Bears, I'm not blowing this up. I'm keeping Justin Fields, and I'm drafting Marvin Harrison. They're probably going to blow it up. Right now, they're interviewing Cliff Kingsbury to be their offensive coordinator. You know where he was last year? He was the OC or the quarterback's coach or both for USC. So the chances are they're trading Fields and drafting Caleb Williams if that's going to be the case. Excuse me. But if they want to trade Justin Fields, I hope the Patriots are open to having that discussion. On the other hand, the Lions aren't getting any worse. I read that. Can't get worse than Kirkless Vikings are the only reason the Pack made the playoffs. I don't think that's exactly the case. Vikings weren't playing all that well. They started to play better when Kurt got hurt, but they got off to a horrible start. And I'm not convinced that the Packers wouldn't have made the playoffs anyway. And the Vikings, they got some decisions to make. They don't have a quarterback. It's obvious if they don't bring it back, Kirk, where are they going to go? Philadelphia booed Santa Claus and he got over it. The cross widow can use her money to wipe her tears. See, and I don't really agree with that. If you don't think it's crass to boo an 80-year-old widow and her grandchildren, I mean, you buy a ticket doesn't give you a right to be a total dick. And you don't go through your life berating people. You want to berate the players, that are playing and boo players, boo Santa Claus. Who cares? It's a totally different situation. And Philadelphia fans are classless anyway. We all know that. So anyway, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but that's one I'm never going to agree with. To me, this is one of the most classless situations I've ever seen in sports. And again, I do think it's a microcosm of how we are in society today. I probably fall into it sometimes here. If the Ravens have to depend on Lamar's legs, you're not outscoring the Bills or the Chiefs. You need an offense. Well, the Bills, neither one of these teams, by the way, offense is as potent as it's been in recent years. Again, I said I won't call them pedestrian, but they're not quite as potent as they've been, especially Kansas City. Kansas City's winning more on ball control and defense. Their defense is much, much better. I think it'll be an interesting matchup. And again, I'm not sold on Lamar and the Ravens until they win 2 playoff games in a run, not one. And again, they beat a team they should have beat. Nick Bodkins from LTS, great show for check out Nick's stuff. Great content on Let's Talk Sports. Also check out his below zero plunge, whatever the hell you call that. Nick and his family are doing a lot of bathing in ice cold water lately. I'm not sure what's going on there, if they lost a bet or what. But Nick, your pack played well. Not sure you still want to see Barry fired, but I think that defense played much better in the last month. And I don't think they're going to move on from him, by the way, but we'll see what happens there. That team has got a lot going for it and a lot to be excited about for the future with the Packers. So congratulations to your team. You were the best team on the field for 50 minutes last night. You just couldn't close it out. And again, it's a young football team, so it's to be expected. Guys, we're going to go long today, so I'm going to probably sign off in a couple of minutes. I'll sign off to you watching on Roku on the Northeast Streaming Sports Roku feed, because there's another show coming on at 10:30. So give it a couple more minutes and we'll sign off there. And I'll say goodbye to you quickly. Chad says kudos to the Packers and the Texans and the Bucks. Maybe a few people. Again, somebody's got. They basically won that division by default, but they played a great game Monday night against a team that pretty much quit. As soon as Philadelphia seems to be a team you get punched in the mouth and they quit. What's the old Mike Tyson saying? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. This team has no leadership where there needs to be. Jason Kelce can't be your leader. It's got to be your quarterback. Horrible. Did I forget about Joe Burrow? Joe, if are we talking about Ohio State quarterbacks? He didn't play. He didn't play at Ohio State, John. Unless it was another quarterback thing we were talking about. I think we were only talking about quarterbacks night through. And I know Kenny's got a comment in here somewhere about, because I challenged him on quarterbacks out of Notre Dame. And I say just Theismann and Montana. But I can't count Joe Burrow as an Ohio State guy either, because he didn't play. Hader gets overpaid in Houston. Drew gets to the baseball we haven't got to yet, which I do want to get into. And we're going to go long, Drew, so we'll talk some baseball. We may even go to 11 today because we got a lot to talk about after not being here for 2 weeks. But I do have to sign off real quickly, guys, and I'll get to Drew's comment here in a second. I want to say goodbye to everybody on the Netflix. The TGI Sports Talk Roku channel. You guys have a great Sunday. Enjoy the football games, and we'll see you next week. For the rest of you, stick around. We're going to finish up with a little bit more conversation because you guys have been so good. It's just unbelievably how good you are. So good to have you with us. We're still here live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter on different feeds. So Drew's back. hopefully getting his comments through. Hader gets overpaid in Houston. I loved Hader. I wanted to see Hader come to the Yankees, and I would have paid him. I would have paid him probably what Houston paid him. I know they had to have a talk with Presley before they made this move. Ryan Presley, who was their closer, to talk about this. You can't have too many arms in the bullpen today, the way the games are played. You're not going to let your starters pitch. You better have more than one guy in your bullpen. So good move by Houston, I think. Robert Stevenson signs with the Angels. Again, a decent pitcher. Is this going to make any difference? And they say just so he can be a closer, even though he won't have many save chances. Now, this move is not going to make the Angels any better. I feel bad for Ron Washington. Ron Washington is a really good baseball man, lifer. He's been around. He had some success in Texas, got the back-to-back World Series. Didn't win one. He got the back-to-back World Series, right? He's not getting to a World Series anytime. And I feel bad for him and Mike Trout. What a horrible situation these poor guys have to deal with. 9 years. That's crazy. What are we talking about, Ralph? I'm a little lost with Ralph. Welcome, Ralph. Ralph Williams, who we always give a little shout out to at the top of this show from RW Media, and specifically the Sports Corner. Hopefully you're still listening, Ralph, because I'm not sure what you're talking about here. I had to get away and talk some hockey with Jim Beringer. But Ralph does some great stuff, as I said, on our RW Media with Smoking Jim Frazier, especially on the Sports Corner, which airs on WBVP 1230 AM and 99.3 FM. It's good to have you with us, Ralph. You can clarify there if you like. Carlos still over the Packers, played well, but they need to play great and build up their depth. Carlos, nobody's going to have depth in today's NFL. How many times do we have to have this conversation? Nobody is going to have depth when you're paying $60 million to your quarterbacks and, big money to your wideouts. You're not going to have depth on either side of the offensive line. You're not going to have depth at running. Well, you might have depth at running back because running backs are a dime a dozen. Anyway, good season, did better than I expected, and I hope the Packers' sake, Love keeps improving. He will keep improving. This kid has got it. If you haven't noticed the last 6 weeks that Jordan Love is quickly moving up the ranks of NFL quarterbacks, we're just not paying attention. Watch him play. Watch C.J. Stroud play. These guys play with a poise that young quarterbacks don't normally play with. Horning didn't play quarterback in the NFL. He played running back. He never played quarterback. Well, he might have played quarterback. If he did, he didn't play it well. So you can't count him. He played running back mostly with the Packers. Hanratty he started about 10 games in the NFL. And who are the others? You can't just say others, Kenny. Theismann and Montana. What's your measurement for success? If you want to talk about Horning, then I'll talk about frickin' Art Schlietzer, for crying out loud. Come on. Those are the only two. I knew you were going to say Hanratty. He couldn't beat out any. I mean, he got a chance to play a few games in Pittsburgh, but I doubt Terry Hanratty played 10 games in the NFL. Started 10 games. I could be wrong. I suppose I can look real quick. And Horning played running back. And I'm not trying to defame Terry Hanratty because I want to have Terry Hanratty on my show at some point. I've tried a few times. Let me look at Terry Hanratty's stats. I'll say, I'm sorry. He started 18 games. He was 6-12. 24 touchdowns and 35 interceptions. Terry Hanratty made it to the NFL. Congratulations, Terry. I don't mean to defame you if you're watching the show or somebody gets back to you. Terry and I are friends on Facebook, which doesn't mean he's watching the show or pays any attention to what I do. Terry Hanratty was not a great NFL quarterback, Kenny. Please. Ralph Jackson ran for 2 touchdowns. Jackson's a great weapon. Ralph, you see him a lot. You're a Pittsburgh fan. You see him a lot. Pittsburgh beat this team twice. This is one of the reasons. Again, this is a team that led in the fourth quarter of every game this year. But they lost to a Pittsburgh team that I think Ralph will admit, not a vintage Pittsburgh Steeler team. Which is why I think Mike Tomlin did a great coaching job this year, and I know Ralph doesn't quite think that. But 2 of their losses were to the Steelers. Why I think I can't get overexcited. They beat a team. They played great. Jackson's a great weapon. Todd Monken has made him better. He's taken a step forward. But they beat a team they should have beat. So they got to win next week to really convince me this team has got the monkey off their back. Nick, I guess, agrees with everything Carlos said there. Again, where are you going to build depth, though, Nick? Nobody can build depth. You're going to have to pay Jordan Love at some point. Congratulations. Ed is back with another. Twice today, he's congratulated his team on winning next year's national championship a year in advance. Great job. Houston beat themselves. I don't disagree. But again, when teams play like Houston played yesterday, you can't discount what the team's doing on the other side of football. It's a great defense Baltimore has. One of their starting corners was out, and his backup played very well. The name's escaping me at the moment. Stroud showed some poise, but you got no separation. They were always Baltimore was in the backfield all day. They couldn't run the football. So their offensive line needs some help. Too many penalties. I will say that Houston beat themselves there. It's a very young football team too. I think Houston will be back. I don't agree with the comments. I think it was John Gonzalez said earlier that C.J. Stroud will come back to earth next year. I mean, this team could. Teams often will, and I saw this happen with the Patriots with Bill Parcells. They had a bad first year. They go to the playoffs the second year. They had a bad third year. They take a step back. They're a young team. It could happen, especially in today's NFL where, Roger Goodell's got the parity that he wants, which sucks, by the way. Love right now is serviceable. My God, Carlos, you 35 touchdowns. You want me to give you his numbers? Oh my God. I mean, it's painful sometimes. Painful. Serviceable quarterback. You wouldn't love to have Jordan Love playing for the Jets or the Giants? What do you? Oh my God. I mean, come on, will you? I can't find his numbers. Hold on. That's not what I wanted. By the way, probably the best quarterback to come out of Utah State ever, I would say. I was with 2 of our salespeople from Utah this week, and one of them is a huge Utah State fan, and he's very happy to see Jordan Love doing as well as he's doing, by the way. 64% passing, 4,159 passing yards, 7.2 yards an attempt, by the way, which is very good. 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He's serviceable, huh? Will you stop? If he improves, he'll be better. He'll be the best quarterback in football if he improves. He's moving up to the next level already. Oh, my gosh. By the way, the postseason, he was even better. He didn't throw any interceptions until the fourth quarter last night. Now, those were important games. He's a young guy. He's basically a rookie. You think he's serviceable. This isn't Trent Dilfer we're talking about. This isn't Brad Johnson. This is one of the up-and-coming quarterbacks. You saw two of them in the games this weekend. C.J. Stroud didn't play well. Pretty cool. He must have been listed in the others, Chad. I'm waiting, Kenny. Kenny might have. Oh, here comes Kenny. Hold on. I wouldn't call 30 years a hump. Maybe Mount Everest. That's not what we're talking about. Mike McCarthy hasn't been there 30 years. I'm talking about Mike McCarthy and Dak. Dak has not been there 30 years. Dak's been there longer than McCarthy, yes. But this, again, Landry and Staubach didn't win out of the gate. It took them 5 years. I think we put too much emphasis. I mean, if we don't win, and I do the same thing. I'm as much to blame as anybody. Because I've been spoiled as a Yankee fan and as a Patriot fan. I've been spoiled. If I don't win it all, it's a bad year. Now, again, I get it. The problem is elsewhere. The 30 years thing is not on Mike McCarthy. It's not on Dak Prescott. How do you blame them for things that happened before they got there? Look at the constants. What are the constants in 30 years? There's only one. Anthony. This stuff all from before I had Jim on? Anthony says, I think Cowboys are going to give Dak a new deal to save money. Well, he'd have to want to negotiate down. That's possible. The only way Dak's getting a new deal is if he gives up money today to save them money. Why don't they do what they did with Ohtani and just give him, sign him for $2 million and defer 68? Will Solar give the Diamondbacks that punch they needed? I like what the Diamondbacks. I like the Diamondbacks a lot. I like the way they built this team. I'm not a big fan. Solar, I think, is a serviceable player, to use Carlos' term. And a guy like Solar, it fits, not Jordan Love. Anyway, Chris. I like this team. I don't like the Suarez signing, the Eugenie Suarez signing. I do like the lefty from Detroit, Rodriguez, I think, right? I do like that signing. I like the way this team played ball. I like the way this team puts the ball in play, and Suarez doesn't fit that. I'm not sure that Solar does either. I don't want to see them lose that identity because they're one of the few teams that play that way. And I think it's one of the things that gives them an advantage. They're better at putting the ball in play than most every other team in baseball. They didn't win, but they almost won that way. Against a team that doesn't, against a team that really, I think, approaches games like everybody else does today with the 3 true outcomes. Staubach was a great quarterback. I wasn't degrading Roger Staubach, John. I was just saying it took him time. Again, he wasn't a great player the first 5 years of his career. Better than Gifford. I'm not sure who Gifford is. Frank Gifford wasn't a quarterback. Better than Morton, absolutely. Well, again, we can blame Landry maybe. Again, we're talking about quarterbacks and coaches, right? And we're all over Mike McCarthy, who's only won 12 games each of the last 3 years and made the playoffs. Sorry, I saw something ahead here. And I don't forget. No, I'm not forgetting. I'm talking about when he got to the Cowboys. It did set him back. I see what you're saying here. So it did set him back. I agree 100%. I'm just saying. And again, by the way, great. Tom Landry is recognized as one of the greatest coaches in football history, as he should be. He couldn't decide between Staubach and Morton, don't forget. Just saying. And I do know the Navy set him back and all that. And I'm not trying to, I want to make sure, I'm not trying to degrade Staubach in any way, shape, or form. One of the great quarterbacks of all time. I'm not sure who Gifford we're talking about is, but Craig Morton, definitely better than Craig Morton. Morton got to go play against the Cowboys in Super Bowl, what, 10, was it? I think it's 10. We saw, no, it couldn't have been 10. 79. I'm not sure what number it was. 14. Can't keep track. Got killed. Kneecap butting with the Motor City Lions. Welcome, my friend. It's actually the streaming service are trying to help us get viewership to YouTube. Is that what they're trying to do? Again, I think you're coming from YouTube, right? If we're still talking about, I don't know what we're talking about here. Probably talking about, they're trying to help us get viewership to YouTube. I'm not sure. Again, Kneecap, I don't know what your first name is. I hope you'll share it with me, and I hope you'll like and follow TGI Sports Talk. Great to have you with us here. I like the YouTube platform. I just don't know how. I have not found a way to maximize viewership on YouTube the way I have on Facebook. And Facebook sucks. I'm sorry. They'll be banning me here again soon because they're a bunch of Nazis. Maybe if I say that enough, I'll get myself. You might see me disappear from Facebook here in a second. But I like YouTube. I like Twitter. I can now share my shows live to Twitter. And I'd rather use those platforms than Facebook, but I just haven't learned how to successfully share it. There's 10,000 views almost a week when I'm able to share the shows the way I've traditionally done it. And now they're doing everything they can to throttle my viewership. So maybe you're saying they want to push me over there. Good. I'll just have to figure it out. I hope you'll share more with us, though, Kneecap. I don't know what else to call you until I know your name. Carlos, you can have Rodgers in his fantasy. All the bullshit he brings, and I'll win a Super Bowl with just a little love. You got a great quarterback, Kenny. I will tell you right now, Jordan Love will be as good as Aaron Rodgers was. And I think you'll probably win more championships because I think you've got the right coach with the right quarterback, and they're going to get better together, and they're going to get better pieces around him, and they'll win more than one Super Bowl. Chris, fun fact, about 2 years ago before he was drafted, Kelly Gruber, really good third baseman with the Blue Jays for a long time, had no idea how to play baseball. He was on a full Texas football scholarship, really, in high school, but his position was blocked by a better athlete. I don't know what position he played. I think I knew that he was a really good college football player at one point. And Kelly Gruber he didn't have a long, I wouldn't say he was a great player, right? But he was a very good third baseman for the Blue Jays for quite some time. Good fun fact there, Chris. We like that type of stuff here on TGI Sports Talk, and you keep bringing it. Love having you with us, Chris. Please like and follow the show and share it with your friends. John, Keith, how about Jim Plunkett to Randy Vadaha? Man, I love, Jim Plunkett didn't actually play in Boston. They'd already moved to Foxborough by then. But those early days, when Jim Plunkett to Randy Vadaha, then Stanley Morgan later on. Jim Plunkett had a great early career under Chuck Fairbanks came in maybe in Plunkett's second year, I want to say, and really turned that franchise around before he screwed them in the late 70s. But he did a great job there. And then Plunkett got beat up really bad, and they traded him on and moved on to Steve Grogan. But Vadaha was and they played together in college at Stanford too. Plunkett and Vadaha, great. This is when I first became a fan. Jim Plunkett was a rookie. YT. Oh, YouTube. Thank you, CA. Finally, I'm not good with acronyms, so yes. CA's back. Pack Nation continues to prove that they're more illogical than even Cowboy fandom. Overwhelmingly, they're blaming the kicker when the Niners missed field goals. Well, I said that earlier. Whoever, again. And again, Packer fans, before they blame the kicker, and you may very well never see Carlson in Green Bay again on Lambeau Field. But you can't win with field goals. The Packers lost this game because when they had a chance to really put their foot on the 49ers early in this game, they settled for field goals and not touchdowns. That's why. Did anyone hear Ramsey or almost say the Eagles invented the quarterback sneak? I think they were, again, I don't think I didn't hear him say that. I didn't hear what he said, but in his defense, I doubt he said the quarterback sneak. I'm going to say he said the tush push, which is a quarterback sneak with four guys pushing you into the line. I don't know whether they invented that or not. I'm sure people have done it before. The Eagles early this year did it better than anybody. They couldn't even do that late in the year. But Romo talks to hear himself talk, and there's very few guys I can listen to anymore. Patrick Waugh. Now we're getting into the. By the way, Jim went into that very well. Thank Jim Beringer for coming on as he does and filling us in on the National Hockey League. And Patrick Waugh back behind the bench. The real reason Jones kept McCarthy is he never questions him. Anyone that shows some sort of backbone, Jones gets rid of. So that Belichick was never going to be a. By the way, who's ever shown backbone to him except Jimmy Johnson? There's nobody that's shown any backbone there to Jimmy Jones since Jimmy Johnson. He brought Barry Switzer in because they were buddies. And Switzer did a fine job. I mean, the team didn't fall apart. The players won those championships. Then he had Dave. I can't think of his. Not Dave. I can't think of his name. The defensive coordinator came in. He was terrible. And they had Wade Phillips, and they did have Parcells there, and that didn't go well because Bill did stand up to him. Now that I think about it. And he had Jason Garrett forever, and I'm probably missing somebody. Paul Ayers, sorry so long to get to your comment, Paul. I hope you're still here, and I hope you'll like and follow the show. Not sure if you've been with us before. Replying to Anthony Price, Ravens scored 34 points and actually let their foot off the gas. But okay. Listen, I'm not convinced. Paul, I'm assuming you're a Ravens fan. I'm not convinced this team, until they win next week, I'm not convinced that this team's over the hump. They beat a team they should have beaten yesterday. I bet the Texans. I didn't think Ravens would lose the game, but I bet the Texans plus 9.5. But, I mean, again, the ultimate goal is to win, right? I mean, you're seeing it with all the Dallas gobbledygook, right? I know the answer. We saw that. Kenny Gifford, not really an A-Rod fan, a rah-rah guy. If you ever watch the podcast, you know I was pushing for Lamar and even Wilson on either team that plays in Jersey. Well, one of those teams has a quarterback signed for a long time. Glad to be back, by the way, Linda. I know this comments are getting a little older here. Sorry about that. We'll skip all the college stuff or hockey stuff. There we go. Linda, I don't know if you're still with us. There's a rumor about infidelity on the team. On Philadelphia? Is that the rumor that Pags didn't want to dive into? Interesting. Here's another one here. Pags talked about again, if that's the case, depending on who this involves, somebody needs to step up and nip this stuff in the bud, man. And if that's the case, the whole team goes in a shitter. Excuse my French. Again, lack of leadership. If you can't get past off the field issues on the field, it's a lack of leadership, both from the sideline and from the quarterback. Unless the quarterback's involved in those issues, that makes it even worse. It would break a team apart. Good leadership can overcome things like that. Off the field issues should not impact this team if they have strong leadership. In my mind, this stuff has got to go on every team. Doesn't it, Linda or Mac, whoever I'm talking to? I mean, wouldn't you think these issues go on every team? What was it? I just saw something the other day. Oh, on Seattle. And again, supposedly one of the things that wrecked their mini dynasty was rumors that somebody slept with Russell Wilson's wife. Good morning, Steve Orpello. Always joining us late. Get up earlier, will you, buddy? You're lucky I went long today. Good to have you with us, Steve. Hope you're doing well. Always keeping a good thought in my mind for you. Jesus, we may go 3 hours today. My wife's going to kill me. Scott Kobe, good afternoon. Almost. Good morning. You think the Patriots go for, who do I think? I still think it could be Josh McDaniels. And Scott, I think a lot of it might depend on whether, again, the talk is they may want to try to rehabilitate Mac Jones. If I'm going to try to rehabilitate Mac Jones, then I'm bringing in the guy he had success with, pretty good success with in his rookie year in Josh McDaniels. I don't know what kind of relationship Mayo and McDaniels had. I do know that McDaniels was at the last Patriot game against the Jets. I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens here. Right now, he's the only guy that I can think of. There's not a guy out there that I can say I'd like to have other than Josh McDaniel. He's never done a bad job as the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots. And don't tell me, and you won't, Scott, I don't think, but other people's going to say, well, he did it with Tom Brady. He also did it with Mac Jones. They won 10 games and went to the playoffs with a rookie quarterback and a shaky offensive roster, which is about what the same one they had the last 2 years. Red Sox can become a joke of a franchise. It could be the worst team in baseball. It's possible, Scott. I don't understand what they're doing there. And another guy, I talked about Mike Trout and the Angels a little while ago. Rafael Devers might end up the same kind of player on a bad team for much of his career, the way the Red Sox are I don't know what they're doing. As Peyton Manning said, the liquored up field goal kicker blew it for the Packers last night. I think he called Mike Vanderjagt, if I remember right? And he called him the idiot kicker. Patriots should get hand ready for their quarterback. Listen, Scott, you know what? I'm not beyond trying to rehab Mac Jones, but bring somebody else in here, please, to compete with him, to mentor him, to whatever. And if Mac Jones is going to be the guy, I want Josh McDaniels to be the OC. Nobody else. That's right, Ed. You have the greatest OC in the history. He did pretty well in Alabama. Listen, Bill O'Brien's had a really pretty good coaching career. You still haven't answered me, Kenny, about this is not Kenny, this is Scott. Bill O'Brien did not do well this year, but again, in his defense, he had a broken quarterback, which Bill Belichick, as much as I love Bill Belichick, had a hand in destroying last year and used him as a pawn in his fight with the Crafts this year. And he gave him no weapons. None. And this team, I can't blame Bill O'Brien for what went on here. Bill O'Brien was really good, by the way, when he was here the first time. And I don't believe he ever had the title, but he was the offensive coordinator. Right? I think Bill O'Brien will do very well at Ohio State. And I think his next head coaching position will be in college. but it might be a little early to anoint the Buckeyes as a national champion. Baltimore knew the only way Houston could beat them was Nico Collins had a closer game, and that did not happen. I agree 100%. They took away, again, what did Bill Belichick and the Patriots do every year, or every game successfully went during the run? Take away the best weapon. There's a guy you say he's not going to beat us. And they took Nico Collins away, really, for the most part yesterday, outside of a couple of decent plays. Never got to the end zone, and most of the day, these guys weren't getting separation. They did a really good job of jamming these receivers. Oh, Kenny. Oh, poor Carlos. I guess me ripping Carlos isn't enough. We shouldn't disparage soccer so much. Now, I do say to my to Rado, keep soccer ball away from your kids, but I'm only being a bit facetious. Here's a look at the lines for the title games. I haven't gotten mine yet, but I'm all over the Kansas City today. Oh, this is potential title games. Bills versus +3 for the same. So the same thing, pretty much 3.5. You know, I'm going to say this. I think of Buffalo. Again, depending on injuries today, I think the winner of this game today is going to the Super Bowl. In Drew's bracket challenge, I took the Bills to get to the Super Bowl. I'm betting against them today, though, because, again, to me, that's a smart play. I got the defending champions on the road getting points. First time. Now, it is the first time Patrick Mahomes has had to go on the road in the playoffs other than a Super Bowl. But I just think this team is better coached. Their defense is playing really good. And I think they'll make enough big plays on offense. Kelsey was much more involved last week than he's been for a while. Hopefully the Bills can ban Taylor Swift from the freaking sideline or the stadium. Against the 49ers, the Lions would be +6.5 and the Bucks +10. I'm betting the 49ers either way in that game. I think the 49ers got the rust out last week. Last night. They got their scare. And I think they will be better for it. And I think they'll probably roll in the NFC Championship game. That said, be a great story if the Lions got there. There's only a handful of teams that have never been to a Super Bowl. The Lions are one of them. Who hasn't made it to a Super Bowl? Good question. I know two of them were in the playoffs this year. The Ravens and the Texans. Let's take a quick look at this, shall we? I'll go back. I'm never going to get out of here, am I? The Bills have been there. The Dolphins have been there. The Jets have been there. The Patriots have been there. The Ravens have been there. The Browns are another one. That's 3. Jaguars is 4. Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, Chargers. Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, Commanders. Team formerly known as the Redskins. Lions, I said. Vikings have been there. The Bears have been there. Bucks have been there. The Saints have been there. The Falcons have been there. The Panthers have been there. The Niners, the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals. 4 teams in all of football. 2 of them are in the Super Bowl or in the playoffs this year. The Lions with a chance to make that number 3. That statement was about Jones. Oh, the 3rd. It had to be. Oh, I knew it had to be, Kenny. But I was saying, even before Jerry Jones, the Cowboys took a decade, more than a decade, to get over the hump. Now, they were an expansion team, so you give them those few years. But they were really good getting to 65 and 66, losing NFC Championship games 2 years in a row to the Packers when they could have gone to a Super Bowl. Don Meredith was the quarterback for Landry then. Then he moves on, and he's got, and again, in fairness, as John said, Staubach was set back by 5 years in the Navy or whatever you had to give. I don't think he did the full, maybe he did the full 5 years. I gave you Montana and Theismann. I guess you're saying and the others. I'm not giving you a hand read. They're the only two guys, Kenny. So if we say C.J. Stroud is a real thing, then Notre Dame's got one more good NFL quarterback than Ohio State. Which is not to say your statement's wrong. And it's also not Ohio State or Notre Dame's job to develop NFL quarterbacks. It's to win college football games. Thanks, John. Didn't know you watched me. I don't know what that one was. Oh, God. I wonder if some comments I don't see. Steve Grogan Stanley, the steamer. We talked earlier. Bob Hildenberg was with us, great Patriot historian, Steve. I don't know if you're friends with him on Facebook. If you're not, let me know, and I'll send you his information because he does. I hope I said his name right. Stanley Morgan, he said Stanley Morgan and Rodney Harrison should be in the Hall of Fame. I agree 100%, both of those guys. Stanley Morgan, you got to look at the era he played in, and don't compare him against guys today. And I also said, Scott, if you're still with me, and we're going to have to get off the air here soon because I'm getting tired. Matthew Slater should be a Hall of Famer easily. There's no classier guy. There's nobody who's done it better. As a special teamer, almost exclusively, played a tiny little bit at wide receiver. Almost exclusively as a special teams guy. He should be in the Hall of Fame. No brainer. Shane Gailey, I forgot. Thank you, CA. Is that the only guy I missed in that? That's not bad. Another great. Jim Jeffco says it's a brotherhood and people pick sides. Talking about the Cowboys situation, or are we talking about? Oh, I see. And talking about the problems in Philadelphia. No, I get it. Things like that can break up a locker room. I get it. But again, if you have a strong leader on the sideline, and if you have a strong leader on the field as your field general, assuming he's not involved in this, that puts a whole different spin on it if it's your starting quarterback. These things you can fight through. I get it. Sides are going to get taken. It happens when you have, quarterback. If you have two quarterbacks, you have none, right? This is a little different situation, obviously, if we're talking about infidelities. Guys are going to take sides. Leaders fight through that and say, leave that shit in the locker room. Let's go out and kick some ass. Oh, come on. I'll give you that, Kenny. I'll give you the fact that he has 3 Super Bowl rings because Terry Bradshaw was a great quarterback. And they had the best defense in the history of football and one of the best running backs in the history of football. And that Terry Hanratty contributed nothing to that except being a better clipboard carrier than anybody except Brian Hoyer. And I guess he's better than any Ohio State quarterback not named C.J. Stroud. You're going to great lengths there. No. It's possible. The Bills finally get this game at home, Steve. So it's possible that Mahomes will get shut down today. His offensive weapons are not nearly as good as they were with Tyreek Hill in Miami. But there's still some talent there. Some younger guys are stepping up in some big moments. The defense is much better. And I think the Chiefs find a way to win this game. I think Patrick Mahomes finds a way to win this game. It'll probably come down to, the quarterback who makes the least mistakes. And that's why I like Mahomes better. I love Josh Allen. Don't get me wrong. People are on him. The Mad New Yorkers on him. I mean, he hasn't got to a Super Bowl. I get it. His numbers through 7 years compare pretty well with the best quarterback of all time. And I know the game's not played with numbers. Bills-Niners parlay next week. Or Chiefs-Niners parlay next week. That's going to be your bet next week? So you don't like the Ravens to finish it up either. Keith, I don't count the Giants' last 2 Super Bowls. I can't remember who they played either. I have 2 lost Sundays in my life. Even lost. I remember the Patriots losing to the Eagles, but those losses to the Giants were hurtful, man, and they're lost to my memory as well, Scott. If you didn't bring your wife with you to Vegas, you better call it for the day. Jewelry is not getting any cheaper. I did not bring my wife to Vegas. Sorry if Jim Marshall. Sorry, I believe Jim Marshall should be in the Hall of Fame. I think Jim Marshall should be in the Hall of Fame myself. I don't think if I said Hall of Very Good in the past, I don't think I have, but if I have, and I try to be very consistent on these topics, unless my mind gets changed. My mind does get changed sometimes. I do think Jim Marshall probably belongs in the Hall of Fame. Stanley Morgan, if you know anything about the Patriots, this guy was a great player and a great wide receiver. And there are wide receivers with very similar numbers. Paul Warfield, Charlie Taylor, guys are in the Hall of Fame, and Stanley Morgan belongs in there. Rodney Harrison is probably a better comparison for me because they're both defensive players. Stanley Morgan played during a different era. He'll never get in now because the guys who are getting in as wide receivers, his numbers pale in comparison. Stanley Morgan's numbers are as good as Lynn Swan's. But whatever. Billy Wagner for the Hall of Fame. Drew, here's my button. We're going to talk about, hopefully we do a show. I've got to probably get to my dad's. Believe it or not, we still haven't celebrated Christmas with my dad. They were here for Christmas, but we didn't exchange gifts and whatnot because the rest of the family was here. But with everything that has come up, we had my father-in-law pass away right after Christmas, and then we had a wedding last weekend, and then I had to go to Vegas, and we still haven't gotten together with them. So I have to get up there probably because if I don't do it next Friday, I'm probably not doing it until March. Because February I'm away for 3 weeks between vacation and work travel. But we'll do a show once they do the announcements. I think it's this week, maybe Tuesday. That makes sense. Here's my ballot. Billy Wagner's not on it. Beltre, no brainer. Joe Mauer, in my mind, no brainer. 3-time batting champion. I think 3 Gold Gloves and an MVP. No brainer. Andrew Jones. Those guys are no brainers for me. I have to think hard, but I want Gary Sheffield. Over 500 home runs. And if I'm putting him in, I'm putting Manny in. And if I'm putting those guys in, then I got to put A-Rod in. And I don't want to put A-Rod in. I hate the guy. But I'm a true believer that you put these guys in and you tell the story, because I don't know who did steroids and I don't know who didn't. And just because I know who the guys are that some of the guys are that did, I shouldn't punish them when guys are probably getting in that didn't or did do them. Right? And some guys may not be getting in and didn't do them. If that makes any sense. So I got Wagner out. Wagner's still borderline for me. He's probably getting in, Drew. I mean, he had what did he get last year? How much percentage of vote did he get last year? I had it here somewhere a minute ago. No, I lost it, I think. Oh, here. No, that's not it. I lost it. Anyway, he was very close. I think Billy Wagner will probably get in. I'm still not putting him on my ballot. My ballot, again, easy for me. Beltre, Jones, and Mauer. It's a little bit, I got to hold my nose a little bit for Sheffield. Great hitter. Guys, 500 home runs is still a benchmark automatic Hall of Famer. 3,000 hits, 500 home runs. And if I'm going to hold my nose for Sheffield, I'm going to hold my nose for A-Rod and Manning. I have to. My argument has always been put him in and tell the story. Same thing with Clemens and Bonds and Pete Rose for a different reason. You can't have a Hall of Fame without these guys. And letting guys like Harold Baines and Gil Hodges, all good players. And Fred McGriff. How's Fred McGriff in a Hall of Fame and not Gary Sheffield? Mark Malone was the greatest Clipper holder and has 4 rings. He doesn't have 4 rings, does he? He didn't get there till after the dynasty was over. But Mark Malone, whether you know this or not, in Magnum PI, the real Magnum PI, not the one that's on now, the real Magnum PI, in his in the clips of him playing football at the Naval Academy, Mark Malone is the quarterback. Just a little known fact, maybe. Mahomes 5-0 in the divisional round. I like the stat, Scott. Never has he played away from home, though. I like Kansas City a lot today, but never has he played away from home. 68% for Wagner. Nobody's ever got to that percentage without getting in, right? My guess is he'll be in. What's the 31%? 31%. Now I got 2. I'm trusting Drew's number here on Wagner. What's the 31%? That might be Sheffield. I don't know. Sheffield should be in the Hall of Fame. It doesn't mean whatever his percentage is. I'm giving you my ballot. I'm not saying they're getting in. This is my ballot. Who I think it's in? I think Beltray gets in, no brainer, first ballot Hall of Famer. Wagner probably goes in because nobody's ever reached 68% and not got in. And that might be it. But Joe Mauer should go. Joe Mauer may not be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but Joe Mauer, which is always weird to me. You're not a first ballot Hall of Famer, but you're good enough to get in, 9 years from now. All about dominance. Wagner dominated. Did he play? I don't know. Did he? Let me look at his numbers again, Drew. Let me look at his numbers again. What time is it? I'm going like 3 hours today. Holy shit. You guys, I got to start charging more. Hold on. Let me get the Billy Wagner. Oh, shit. I'm in the Pro Football Reference. That ain't going to work. How the hell did I get in there? Let me look at Billy Wagner's numbers again. Drew and I do this all the time. And when he gets in, when he does get in, Drew, you and I will debate it again. Whenever we have our recap show on this, which will be hopefully this week sometime. All right. So I'm looking at his numbers. He's played with Houston. He won a Cy Young. No, he didn't. He finished 4th. So he never won a Cy Young. Only finished in the top 10 twice. MVP voting, never in the top 10. He was an all-star 6 or 7 times here. 38, 39, 35. I don't know. 27 saves. I have a problem. I mean, this is good. This isn't Mario Rivera good. I wish I had blown saves here, but I don't have that in front of me here. Listen, I probably can't make a significant argument that he doesn't belong. For me, he's not my cup of tea. I'm sure about Helton doesn't belong. Helton doesn't belong because, number one, Colorado. Look at his numbers outside of Colorado, and they're pedestrian at best. I mean, I shouldn't say pedestrian. They're good, but they're not great. I don't know what happened to my screen here. Probably kick this thing out again, whatever. I lost my screen, so. Andrew Jones, I do think belongs, though, because the numbers are just tremendous. And defense means something. Defensive players can get in. Ozzie Smith. Andrew Jones is the best defensive center fielder of his time. And one of the best in history. And he also carried a pretty big bat for much of his career. But Todd Helton, no. Pete Rose, one of the ever listen. I've said this forever, Steve. I've done vlogs, and every few years I have this. We're letting guys in. We let David Ortiz in, but we don't let Barry Bonds and Clemens in. Put it on their plaque that they did steroids. Pete Rose, put it in his plaque and put on there he was banned from baseball for gambling. You can't have a Hall of Fame without Pete Rose. You can't. More than a handful. Let's take a look, Drew, shall we? Willie Hernandez, who just passed away, won the Cy Young and the MVP in the same season. I'll give you one example right off the top of my head. Yeah, so I can use that as a benchmark. Now, the guys that they've let in, I don't think have won a lot of awards. Let's look real quick. And again, by the way, just because they haven't been voted doesn't mean they shouldn't be. All right, so it's become a starters thing. We know that for recent history, which I know we tend to go to. So it's been a lot of years since one won. Somebody won. There are years that Mariano Rivera definitely should have won the Cy Young. I can tell you that right now. So there aren't a lot, but I gave you one. I know Sparky Lyle won a Cy Young. I haven't got to him yet. So Raleigh Fingers won the Cy Young. There's Sparky. And then we get into that's when it ends. So, who won in the National League here? All starters. And by the way, is there a reason they shouldn't win? You make it sound like they shouldn't win. We don't even let pitchers pitch the most important parts of the game. And relievers, by the way, starting with, and Mariano is part of this as well. Relievers today don't even pitch. They don't even pitch when the game's on the line, most of them. That's why I like Josh Hader so much, at least how they use him in Milwaukee. They use him in the most important part of the game. If it was the fifth inning and the game was on the line, they'd bring him in. They did that with Lyle. They did that with Gossage. They did that with Fingers. Guys don't come in the middle of innings anymore. So maybe that's my problem with Billy Wagner, is he's part of this new age relievers. You get a save if you go in with a 3-run lead and give up 2 runs. And again, I don't know what Billy Wagner's thing is here, but so Cy Young should matter. And by the way, pitchers should be considered for Cy Youngs. Maybe more today than ever. Because you don't even let pitchers pitch the most important part of the game. But then again, I guess based on what I just said, I can't consider relievers either because not closers, because they only pitch the 9th inning. And don't ever bring them in with the game on line, the bases loaded, which we did with Gossage and Lyle and Fingers. And oh, by the way, I think Bruce Sutter won a Cy Young. There's another guy, and he did Bruce Sutter. There he is. Steve Bedrosian won a. Okay, so again, not a lot, Drew, but more than a couple. Eric Gagne, more recently, probably going to be it. And again, Willie Hernandez won a Cy Young and an MVP in the same year. So I'm just saying. I mean, I can't just hold that against him. Start a section with the so-called scoundrels of baseball. Sure, we'll get into this debate if you want about Billy Wagner. I have a hard time saying Billy Wagner doesn't belong because of the people we're letting in. You know, is Lee Smith a Hall of Famer? Love Mariano Rivera. Mariano Rivera may have been the MVP of those Yankee teams. I don't know. But should he be the only Hall of Famer that got a unanimous vote? Hall of Shame. No, listen, if your numbers warrant being in, your career warrants being in, you should be in. You can't have a Hall of Fame without these guys. You can't. You can, and I wouldn't have a problem putting their plaque in their own little section. Kenny, I know you're kind of joking a little bit, but I would do that. It can be in the plaque room, same place, but here's a section for the guys who may have done some things they shouldn't have. Joe Jackson belongs in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame. All of these steroid users belong in the Hall of Fame, and you tell the story of what they did. The Baseball Hall of Fame is a museum that should tell the story of baseball history. These guys have some of the greatest careers in the history of baseball and have to be in the Hall. And it's okay that they go in warts and all. Again, Drew, the game is much different for all these guys, and I've got to lump my guy in with Hoffman and with Wagner. They're definitely I guess if they're Hall of Famers, Wagner has to be. But the game is played so much differently today, and one of the reasons I have trouble comparing eras with things like relievers and even starters is the game's not played anywhere near the way that it was. Starters can't throw more than 90 pitches. Relievers can't come in except in the ninth inning with nobody on base in a save situation. When the guys who really were good and they were closers means they were stoppers, right? You came in with this. Well, I still remember Sparky Lyle pitching 5 in the third innings in Game 5 of the ALCS to get the Yankees to the World Series in '77, I want to say. What reliever is going to do that today? Is Sparky Lyle in the Hall of Fame? No. Only Lee Smith has more saves and more Ks than Wagner. Again, there's compilers. And again, I guess a lot of the offensive players, I say 500 home runs, 3,000 hits, put you in the Hall of Fame. A lot of guys have compiled those numbers and weren't great players, right? Because they played a long, long time. Again, I really have a hard time coming up with a compelling case against Wagner, given, there's guys in there that pitched in the same era, whatever. My wife probably thinks I snuck out the egress window here. They have a section for women, so why not have a section for guys like Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, and Clemens in a special closet for A-Rod? Believe me, when I say I got to vote for A-Rod, if I'm voting for Manny, I got to vote for A-Rod. Very funny, though. Only Rivera has a lower ERA than Wagner. And does it matter that he wasn't pitching in as many big games? Maybe, I don't know. I got to look closer again, Drew. I haven't looked at this close since you and I last had this discussion. I've got him on my maybe part of the ballot. If you made me put a ballot in, it would be. I guess at this point I'd probably vote for him. Highest K ratio is whack. See, does that mean anything? How much does that mean? I mean, that's a good number, actually. I saw a great stat, by the way, for those people who want to berate Nolan Ryan as the most overrated pitcher in the history of baseball because of the win and loss percentage. I don't know. His win-loss percentage was like 534 or something like that. Not great. 30 games over 500. And I'm rounding it up because my computer just shut down on me. Did you know that Nolan Ryan, so he won 300 games, 320 games, whatever it was. But Nolan Ryan had, I believe, roughly 200 no decisions in his career. And in those games, I don't know, what was the stat? Damn it, it wasn't no decisions. Maybe it was no decisions. Maybe it was no decisions. And in those games, he struck out like an astronomical number of guys, and his ERA was around 2. To give you a point of how many bad teams Nolan Ryan played on. Means a lot. That's almost half the outs of the game. What's that? Not sure where you went there. Oh, you're talking about the strikeouts? Yeah, but he's not pitching. That's his highest K. He didn't pitch 9 innings though, Kenny. I mean, it's half the outs of when he pitched, yes. No, I corrected myself that the K ratio is a good one. I don't know. We're going to talk about this more, and this vote will come out tomorrow. So, guys, we're going to wrap it up because I've been going 3 hours, and quite frankly, I got to use the men's room. It's great to be back. We had a lot to talk about today because I haven't been here in a couple of weeks. We'll pick it up next week right here at 8:30 on probably too loud. Right here at 8:30 on next Sunday morning. We will be live the next 2 Wednesdays, I believe, with the college sports huddle. And Are You Serious the next couple of Fridays with the Mad New Yorker. And you can catch me also on a few other shows on Northeastern Youth Sports or Let's Talk Sports through the course of the week. Certainly on Friday and Sunday mornings with Mac and Jack. So those are the things to think about. You guys have a great, great weekend. Let me just see what else we got here. Boy, went a long time today. Thank you, Drew. Thanks for hanging in there. And I wish all your comments got through, Drew. We'll have to try to figure that out. You guys have a great day. Enjoy the football. Go Kansas City. Go Lions. Talk to you later. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye-bye.